Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of Season 11 of the UK Sim Racing Community's GT3 League as hosted on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. And today marks round 4 of 9 and we are here once again in the United States of America for the one and only VIR. Known in full as the Virginia International Raceway, located near the commune of Alton in the state from which it takes its name. This circuit is absolutely spectacular in every which way, whether it be the scenery that surrounds it or indeed the circuit itself, with a full course presenting itself to our drivers today with 17 corners that are all quick fire in succession, multiple extended straights and numerous elevation changes all weaved together over a number of blind apexes and also quite a number of notable grassy runoff areas. It does mean that this circuit is one that's all about keeping it on the black stuff as best as possible, but at the same time finding a rhythm and finding a way to score a victory. And in doing so, our drivers may just make their way into the mid-season break on top form, given the fact that after today we have a 2-week mid-season break and our drivers will be returning in 2 weeks time, and that'll be at the start of August. But as everybody gets ready to go racing today with everything on the line, if you will, and momentum being so key in this championship, we welcome you to tonight's broadcast being brought to you live via the UKSimRacing YouTube channel. And while you tune in, we do say hello to you guys and girls in the YouTube chat, and don't be shy, feel free to say hi, let us know how you're doing, how you spent your weekend, and also let us know who you're cheering on today. And if you are tuning on the UKSimRacing YouTube channel and you're not currently subscribed, we definitely do recommend doing so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest live circuit side broadcasts, and also on top of that our upcoming highlight reels and plenty more content we've got planned for the channel as we go from strength to strength. In the commentary booth tonight you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I will bring you all your racing action over the course of this entire season. And just before we go on to remind you of the season calendar, we'd just like to take a quick moment to say thank you to Matt Edmondson, who put together the pre-roll which you just saw prior to us going live today, and we'll thank you to him for putting together an absolutely stellar video, and I think it definitely does convey the mood and momentum that the GT3 League by UK Sim Racing continues to bring together as we go from season to season and strength to strength. But let's look to our calendar then and remind ourselves of where we've been and where we're still to go. And we started off all the way back on the 25th of June at the Fuji International Speedway in Japan. There it was all about the start-finish straight and also the technical aspects of the circuit in the foothills of Mount Fuji, and from there we made our way over to the European continent for a double header in Spain. Round number 2 was at Circuito de Jerez, and as our drivers took to the MotoGP layout of the circuit on the 2nd of July, we saw it was all about magic through the sweeping corners, and in particular we saw the rise of a good number of drivers in the elite class, but first and foremost Erik Røseth was absolutely on point and able to steer clear of his rivals. Then round number 3 we made our way to neighbouring MotorLand Aragón, going to the region of Aragon now on the 9th of July, and that's the first round we brought to you live from circuit side. And then we saw battles of plenty up and down the field, albeit on a circuit which was not going to naturally create battling action and was more about track position, but at the same time in the AM class through a lot of drama, we eventually saw Jack Whitebourne take his first win of the season, 2 second places in rounds 1 and 2, and then finally on the 3rd time of trying picking up his maiden win. Still many a driver looking to pick up their first podiums or wins of the season, including Matt Edmondson in the AM class, who unfortunately lost out on the podium there last time out, and also looking to the elite class, where it was the first time in Spain in round number 3 we saw Rhys Saunders take to the top step, albeit not without a little bit of argy-bargy and battling the elbows out action, but at the same time Saunders picking up his first win on the 9th of July and looking for plenty more. But today it's the Virginia International Raceway for round number 4 on the 16th of July in another sprint race round, and after our break fortnight, or a 2-week break period, we're returning from Road Atlanta in the state of Georgia in the town of Brazelton on the 6th of August for our 5th sprint race in succession, and round number 5 is going to be an absolute treat, albeit I say that, let's not let it undervalue the racing today, but if you're looking for a roller coaster of road racing, then Road Atlanta is going to present it if VIR does not give you your feel. Now being the 6th of August, before we make our way out to the United States for the remainder of the season, and we head back to Spain for our 3rd and final Spanish venue. That'll be in round number 6, the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia, and that'll be our final sprint race before we end our run of 6 sprint races on the 13th of August. They're a circuit that packs a little bit of everything into its tarmac, and therefore our drivers will be put to the ultimate test of their abilities at the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia, and also how well they can set up the car to make it work for them. And then we'll make our way to France for the Circuit de la Sarthe, also known as the Circuit des 24 Hours de Le Mans, or what we all know and love and refer to as, in short, the Le Mans Circuit. That'll be our first endurance race round on the 20th of August there in round 7 and 9. Then we'll make our way down under to Australia for a double-header to wrap up the championship campaign, starting with round number 8 at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, and that'll be our final sprint race of the season on the 27th of August. And now drivers will need to manage the undulations and also the sweepers of the rather lesser-known Australian circuit outside of its shores, but still one not to be underestimated. And then round number 9 of 9, we'll see our drivers make the way to Bathurst for Mount Panorama Raceway, and there in our final race of the season, our final endurance race round as well on the 3rd of September, it'll be a test of who is the king or queen of the mountain and who will come down from the mountain on top in terms of their championship. We'll have to wait and see, but we've got a long way to go, and well, what a season it has been thus far, and still what we've got lying in wait absolutely goes to show that season 11 has really seen the ante ups, and well, this could be our best season to date. But coming from our calendar then to our circuit for today, it's none other than the full course of the Virginia International Raceway. Located in the commune of Alton of Halifax County in the state of Virginia in the United States of America, as may be seen from the circuit map provided to us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for a wonderful simulator and also the circuit maps that come with it. This is a circuit with 17 fast-flowing corners, and particularly the average lap speed begins to build very quickly after the opening couple of turns. We've also got a number of extended straights, and one of which is the start-finish straight, and as our drivers make their way across the kink and down towards turn number 1, they'll find themselves battling into Horseshoe Corner. Next in the right-hander, they'll find themselves having to get back to full throttle as soon as possible to go for the kink of 2 and breaking into turn number 3 at NASCAR Bend. And you're probably wondering, how does NASCAR Bend get that name? Well, it's really the fact that over the previous years I've seen NASCAR race at this circuit. A good number of infamous NASCAR drivers, including I do believe Dale Earnhardt, ends up having an instance at the turn at number 3 corner, and that's how it picked up its name of NASCAR Bend, for the simple reason it seems to claim a good number of NASCAR drivers, albeit no fatalities or anything along those lines, just an ending of their races in their respective Grand Prix. Then going into turns 4 and 5, we'll see our drivers make their way through left hook into the right-hander, and as they come on out and up towards 5A, it's then the charge through the snake at turns 6 and 6A, where it's flat out all the way through up to South Bend at turn number 10. Albeit we'll see our drivers weave their way uphill before dropping down to turn number 10, and well, if our drivers get it wrong through there, they'll find themselves going onto the grass, and particularly on the first half of lap, if you put a wheel on the grass, you'll very quickly find yourself off circuit and taking a very long time to return, for the simple reason the runoff areas, they're non-existent, and the grass slopes away from the circuit, which means when you fall off the circuit, you are going to fall very far away. We get it right under brake into turn number 10, and they'll exit out of South Bend with all the momentum they need to go into the hairpin at turns 11 and 12, and exiting out of Oak Tree at turn number 12, the tree that's no longer there, unfortunately, has had to be cut down quite recently, but it's still there and commemorated in the simulator. They'll make their way down the back straight all the way out towards turn number 14. Heading into Roller Coaster Corner, there it's all about battling on the brakes, and indeed another equivalent to what is the Corkscrew Chicane at Laguna Seca in the state of California of the USA, but the difference here being the two apexes are spread out quite significantly, and as our drivers wind the way on down, it's through a double left at turns 15 and 16 before going into Hog Pen at turn number 17, and once again it's about a return to full throttle as soon as possible, for the simple reason it's a chance to the start-finish line to do it all over again. But speaking of going over things again, let's go over those rules once more, just to remind you of the rules for each and every one of our sprint race, indeed our races in general. Car setup wise, drivers are not permitted to change their car without penalty at any point during the season. We yet seen anybody change their car as far as I'm aware. Will we see somebody do so today? We haven't been informed of anything, so we're going to presume no until informed otherwise. A car fuel loads are restricted to 50% for all races, which definitely has served to mix up the strategies, particularly the opportunity for drivers to undercut versus overcut in each and every race. Qualifying wise, a lone qualifying format shall be used, which means that all the drivers take to an isolated instance of the circuit where they can only see themselves and therefore not impede others, and drivers shall have 10 minutes to set their best possible time, an unlimited number of laps, but as many as they can cram into a 10-minute window. Then going on to the races in general, races shall commence via double spiral rolling start, which is the tradition of the UKSimRacing GT3 League. There being no mandatory pit stop requirements with all our sprint races, we do expect our drivers will need to come into the pits to at least take on some fuel, and they may opt to change tyres if necessary. Each driver has one fast repair available, and all race tuning shall be conducted post-race. Sprint race-wise, specifically, a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. And well, as we now look back to our live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 5 minutes' time, we'll be heading into our fourth qualifying session of the season, 10 minutes in duration, and there all our drivers will look to put in their best possible times, and we'll talk a little bit more about why qualifying is going to be so pivotal here very shortly, and then we'll be taking a 5-minute breather just to debrief from qualifying, give our drivers an opportunity to have a rest break and also set up the cars for the race, and then we go racing to the grid at 8:15 this evening for our 45-minute sprint. But as you can see that in terms of ambient temperature, it's currently 26 degrees centigrade ambient, but it's a heat wave on the tarmac itself with 48 degrees centigrade, and that's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody concerned, for the simple reason as soon as track temperature escalates above 40 degrees centigrade, it does start to really see tyre wear become a major factor, and if you end up putting a bit more of excess temperature into the tyre, well, very quickly the tyre can go off and it can cause you to lose a huge amount of time. And we've got a bit of partial cloud around here, albeit as I look at my commentary booth, and also you can see in the background of the screen, it depends on where you are on circuit, but for the most part it does look to be blue skies, so I'm not expecting those track temperatures to come down any time soon. But speaking of coming down, let's come down to other drivers making the way on around circuit right now, including Erik Røseth, the Protect Motorsport driver from Scotland, who really has proven to have a few weaknesses in his armour after what was a stellar start to the season. And going into this round, if we start with the pro class in particular, which Erik Røseth is part of, he is still your championship leader, and he was able to increase his advantage last time out at MotorLand Aragón to 12 points, despite the fact he just missed out on the podium and finished 4th at the Spanish circuit. Now the reason for this is that McGregor firstly has been highly consistent all the way through the season, but also on top of that you've got a multitude of drivers in the pro class who are all vying to really be the #1 contender to chase down the Ferrari 488 Evo driver. One of whom, currently 2nd place in the championship, is this man, Darren Sharples, for UKSimRacing Price, or Daz as he's known to friends and company, and as the Englishman makes his way weaving on through turns 4 and 5 through left hook and onwards. Well, right now in the Porsche 992, and many drivers going for the Porsche 992 in the pro class, where he finds himself in that 2nd place spot, but from week to week it continues to change, and can Sharples be the man to lay down the gauntlet and lay down the change to McGregor? We'll have to wait and see. But you also have other drivers who are just as much on point, including Casper Brotner, as we do see the old dudes in cars 111 driver making his way on around through left hook corner, and as he heads out to turn number 5 into the snake at 6 and 6A, well, right now Brotner will also be looking to try and put his foot down in terms of that being that #1 contender. And we also do have the likes of Mark Johnson in the Mercedes AMG Evo 2020 machine, and with the UKSimRacing Clark driver had a very unfortunate time last time out at MotorLand Aragón, but can he potentially make things work a bit better today, with the fact that whilst this circuit does have quite a few corners to it, it's less handling focus and it does have a big emphasis on power just as much as cornering capability. Well, we'll have to wait and see for Johnson. But that's the update with regards to the pro class. Meanwhile, in where's the elite class, we do look to Joe Newman getting it very wrong there, coming in to left hook at turn number 5. And will Joe Newman, one of a number of drivers, scrapping for a top 5 finish in the elite class? The Empire Motorsport driver toes his way back to the pit, and very rapidly indeed. But the big name, you can see him there in the pit lane for Racing Lab Esports AM in the Porsche 992, albeit quite obscured at the moment. I do believe he is currently sharing a pit box with a newcomer, Frank Klein, to the series as of today. Well, we can see here, well, to the season I should say, Frank Klein is a veteran of the GT3 League, albeit we haven't seen him on the grid until now in season 11. And well, Røseth currently your pro, in fact your elite championship leader, and he's leading by a steady margin of 14 points over close rival Rhys Saunders. And there is Saunders from Team Year 1, your winner last time out of MotorLand Aragón, albeit I do believe he was penalised a couple of points for the contact he did have with Damien Lobbett when the two of them battling for the win at MotorLand Aragón, but still Saunders has been permitted to hold on to his win at the circuit, and therefore he's just been given a post-round points penalty. And they all know that the gap of the deficit to Røseth now is greater than he expected, and he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to try and close it up. But also keep your eyes out for a couple of other drivers who've yet to really hit their stride, including current defending elite champion Hairpin for Igni Motorsport, the #1 driver in the BMW M4. We've seen plenty of good results from this season, albeit nothing quite what we saw in season 10. But then again, he may just be waiting to unleash that form onto the field perhaps in the second half of the season, and just getting some good points on the board at the moment to make sure he has not got any major drop scores, or he's forced to take his drop score early. And then lastly, coming on to the M class, well, with the fact he was able to secure his first win of the season last time around, Jack Wyborn is currently your championship leader, albeit he's not out on circuit, but you did see him in the fun mail today, and therefore you'll be looking out for the TPA racing machine, the blue and pink machine. We look to see him in Andre Livingston, perhaps the most unfortunate AM driver of the field thus far, who was leading the way at MotorLand Aragón only for a technical issue to hold him at bay and cause him to finish the race 2 laps down. But the Racing Lab Esports AM driver is back in full fury today, and we look forward to seeing how the Norwegian gets on here at VIR, looking to put his first win on the board for this season in the AM class. And well, keeping in mind that right now Jack Wyborn is leading by 12 points over Steinar Sani, and Sani currently in the pit lane. It definitely does look as though Wyborn finally with that first win could be galvanising the championship campaign. But then again, could it just be a one-off? Albeit he won't want it to be that way. He'll want to prove that he can make multiple wins in quick succession. But will his rivals let him? We will have to wait and see. But speaking of seeing things, we do say hello to a good number of you in the YouTube chat. including Kristen Williams, who's cheering on TPA. We also do say hello to what is there, Simon Hartley, who says, no show for me tonight, my wheelbase has gone south. Let's go Tiki guys and have a good one. We're very sorry to hear that, Simon. Hopefully you are able to get your equipment repaired or replaced as soon as possible, because we'd love to see another Tiki SimSport driver out there. But still, at the same time, we're very grateful to have you tuning in today, as we do look to Alexander Trevino Mikkelsen in the Racing Lab Esports AM and Porsche 992, as we do hit the clock on the hour, and it's time for us to go into qualifying. But as we do, we also say hello there to Simon B. Bamba. We also say hello to Erik Røseth, who's rooting for Racing Lab Esports AM tonight. As always, let's have a good one, Erik says, and we look forward to seeing how Erik gets on as well. We also say hello to Matt Edmondson, who says this is going to be 45 minutes of a game of the floor is lava. Well, indeed, with that track temperature being so high, you can understand why, for the simple reason you do not want to scrub the tyre whatsoever. And when we say scrub the tyre in terms of get it wrong on rotation, cause the tyre to slide against the surface. So therefore, if that's a bit of oversteer for the simple reason, then doing so will cause those tyre temperatures to absolutely escalate. And at that point, you will end up in a situation whereby the car is going to be screaming that it doesn't want to be on those tyres anymore. But Mark Davidson makes his way in to NASCAR Bender turn number 3. The UKSimRacing Bryce Driver putting in some great performances, his most standout one being at the Circuito de Jerez in round number 2, where he was able to keep Erik Røseth honest all the way throughout, albeit just missed out in the end based on a little bit of strategy and late pace not quite being there for the number 23 drive. We look forward to seeing how he can get on here today. We also say hello there to, I do believe, Martin Tillin, who says haven't seen a 50 centigrade all week, maybe one day, but this is hot. We also say hello to Nathan Foster, who says the same lava for everyone. And also we say hello to Adrian Gray, who says turn 1 pile up, here we come. And also we say hello to Craig Tiddleston, who says good luck everyone, looking forward to a great race. We do have a prediction there, it may be a little bit of chaos and carnage at turn 1, and well, the Virginia International Raceway is no stranger to turn 1 instance. Indeed, if you look at any real world races that have taken part here over the years, whether it be in GT World at Challenge America or alternatively in NASCAR in previous years, there have been a few bumps and scrapes at turn 1, but hopefully we won't see too many of those here today. But as we do see what is there, Mark Davidson making his way up towards turn number 14. A little bit of trivia for you with regards to the VIR circuit. This is one of a limited number of circuits in the world whereby, with the fact it does have a grand total of 6 major layouts to it, of which on the full course this is the most common layout that is used, but we do have multiple others. This is a circuit whereby you can have multiple races occurring at the same time, given that a good number of the layouts are separate from one another. And to give you an example, the full course which you see our drivers racing on here, well, right in the centre of the full course is what is known as the Patriot layout, whereby it's completely separate from the full course, and therefore, if the time is right, you could have 2 races going on simultaneously, one on the full course and one on the Patriot layout. But here today, all the focus is on the one and only a GT3 race, and as we see Davison going on to his first flying lap, when we jump on board with some of our drivers in short order, once they're onto their second laps, because we do want to give our drivers an opportunity to get their tyre temperatures up, but in terms of why this qualifying session is so important. Now, when I was scouring down in the pit lane, speaking to some of the drivers in the paddock going into tonight's racing, they were saying to me, and also talking amongst one another, I was able to glean that a lot of teams are concerned about the fact that overtaking here is going to be very difficult. Now, we do have the very high ambient and track temperatures, first and foremost, and that is going to put a lot of pressure on our drivers. But also, on top of that, it is the fact that around here, overtaking is not overly easy, because most of the overtaking is relegated to the run to a corner after the extended straights, the run towards turn number 1, also the run out of what is their turn number 5 through Snake and onwards towards South Bend, which I've seen Frank Klein do. But the thing about this combination is you'll notice as Frank makes his way on down here, in the fact that the road is going to narrow rather rapidly as we head into turn 7, 8 and 9, and therefore really the 2 wide only runs through Snake Corner into turn 7, and then you have to back out for the simple reason 2 wide can run all the way into South Bend at turn number 10, but there the pair of you are going to lose a lot of pace. You do have the run down towards the hairpin at turns 11 and 12, which we're seeing Klein doing so right now as he breaks his way on in, but again really want to save up the overtaking opportunity down the back straight up towards turn number 14, and then the overtaking opportunities stop. So therefore track position is going to be key, and on top of that, if you can't find the track position in qualifying, well, strategy is going to have to be pivotal if you want to make that ground, albeit a good launch off the line is also going to help. But speaking of helping things here, making up another spot on the grid, we do see him on his debut for season 11, albeit he was a veteran of season 10. Frank Klein here is representing the 9 Cheese at Autosport. We look forward to seeing how he gets on in the number 76 at BMW M4, but he definitely get his campaign underway today, and well, good good luck to him. He's your only debutant today. Otherwise, we do have everybody back in full force. And speaking of one name that many of you will be very eager to see return to the grid today, here he is in the AM class, John Doble. And why he's a big important name, he was your winner in round number 1. He did say in his post-round interview at round number 1 that he wouldn't be on the grid for rounds 2 and 3, but he's back in full force for TG SimSport, and the Canadian driver here is looking to kick up a storm for the simple reason he wants to get his AM Championship campaign right back up to speed. So speaking of things up to speed right now, drivers are starting to put their lap times in, and will we jump on board with Elite Championship leader Erik Røseth as he takes us around for his second flying lap this session and heads down towards turn number 1. Went back there, braking early. I think Røseth decided to back the car off a little bit as he comes on through, so therefore we are going to jump from Røseth's car to another car. We do apologise for that, we just called him at the wrong time, but he does go provisional pole in the elite class of 44.917 as Hekon Gustad only 400ths behind him. We will try and get a lap from other drivers very shortly, and well as the drivers make the way on around, I do believe we may be able to get a lap from Peter Cox as we do see the UKSimRacing driver making his way to the timeline. And we jump on board with the Porsche 992 driver as he heads down towards turn number 1. Now heading in towards the braking zone here for his second flying lap, and looking over to his left-hand side. He'll be braking just before the 2 board there that represents 100 metres from corner apex, braking through the opening corner, using plenty of apex curve to rotate the car, and now full throttle all the way out, using the road, and just gets to the power a little bit too greedy there, and understeer takes the car, and well, as you can see, rejoins the tarmac into the barrier, and well, for Peter Cox, that's gone very, very wrong very quickly, and now we do, well, that's 2 of our fast laps are on board, lap scuppered. Does look as though we have a bit of a curse going here, must be said, but let's try it for the 3rd time, and it's Jack Wyborn who will potentially take us around here for TPA Racing as he comes across the line to complete his second flying lap, and that's going to put him in P9 in the AM class, and now he goes again. But braking into turn 1, down to 2nd gear, nice and tight to the apex, and he exits out the opening corner, now trying to return to flat out here as he powers his way up through the Kinkato and in towards NASCAR bend at turn number 3. Now you'll notice it's straight line, the braking into 3, but braking early to settle the car down to get the pitch on the nose as he makes his way into left hook at turn number 4, braking down the 2nd gear from the 100-metre braking point, but immediately on the direction change into turn 5, and now it's all about getting back to full throttle here and committing as he heads through snake of 6, rides over the curve through 6A, and underneath the bridge he goes, and all the way up to turn 7, 8 and 9 now, flat out, all the way into 5th gear, in fact now into 6th as he heads on through, building up to 140, 150 miles an hour as he comes into South Bend, onto the brakes here, drops a gear as he rolls the car through a left-hander, brings it over to the left-hand side, braking into turn 11, 12 hairpin, going all the way down the gearbox from the number 2 board into 2nd gear Oak Tree, pan out the corner now, and on down the back straight he goes, up through the gearbox here, going to be charging all the way towards turn 14. As he gets ready for the next braking zone, it's all now going to be about keeping the car smooth and consistent as he heads into the fast line conclusion of the lap. Now you'll notice initially he won't be moving the car around too much, and he'll let the car creep over to the right hand side. As he heads into turn 14, he'll be looking to the 1 board there as his turning point, immediately on the brakes there through 14, into 14A, drops the car, 2nd gear right on a large amount of apex curve there at 14A, through 15, into 16, down through the left, into the right, blind apex into the right hander of 17, going out of hog pen now, flat out through 17A, and to the end of the lap. That's the lap of the VIR full course brought to you by Jack Wyborn. And what's it going to be this time as he heads towards the time in line? Well, it does seem to be a lap that he's been able to piece together with an improvement in the first half of the lap, but not in the second half. In fact, he does not improve there, but meanwhile, going provisional pole in the AM class is Simon Andre Livingston, and well, this is a familiar tale. For those of you who tuned in last week, Livingston dominating qualifying, and then finding everything was going well in the race until it didn't with that technical issue, and well, let's hope history does not repeat itself from last week here, as he is currently almost 2 tenths clear of Frank Klein, who on his debut for this season is absolutely delivering the BMW M4. But as we look to Livingston cross the line, what about in the Pro class? And well, it's a Racing Lab Esports car, and it is Matt Strand who leads the way with a 45.676, as meanwhile it does look like it's Racing Lab Esports AM who are pole sitters provisional in all 3 classes, Elite, Pro and AM, with Røseth just setting the fastest time in the Elite class of what is a 44.890. Well, Hekon Gustad is currently on what will it'll be his final lap, we do believe, given the fact there's no overtime available in this qualifying session. Therefore, when the clock strikes 10 minutes, that's it. They've done every lap they're permitted to do, and they have to be taken back to the pits immediately. But as we do see Gristad making his way, winding on down through 17 now, Hogpen, and now on to the start and finish straight. What's it going to be here? He did improve in subsectors 1 and 5, but I get the feeling this may not be enough to dethrone Røseth unless he's going to pull out a magical final sector. He heads to the timeline, and for the Ignium Motorsport driver, it's not enough to improve. So P2 will be the best he achieves, but as we look to those overall top 35 grid positions, the biggest surprise is in the pro class. He's just gone provisional pole pro and P4 overall. Kasper Brotner, the old dudes in cars driver, 6 tenths off the overall pole but set Røseth, but meanwhile what is almost 2 tenths clear, and Matt Strand will be starting P11 at this point, and Casper Tunstead moves up to P14, and we can see the provisional and pole sitter at Livingston, we started P18 if things finish as they currently stand. So therefore we do have an interesting mix of elites and pros, where a couple of AMSs are creeping into the pro mix. Guys, this field is separating quite nicely for the AMS down towards the bottom of the standings, with the fact we do have a grand total of 41 drivers in attendance in terms of the qualifying session, but we have 4 drivers who are not setting times, and Stuart Pearson, Ian Mann, James Collins and Paul Joseph clears. So therefore this is definitely going to be a race to behold as our drivers all get set now, qualifying practically at its end. And will any late surprise in this qualifying session? Well, the biggest one is Brotner, who's really swept the pro class, but the time is going to strike 10 minutes in 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, and as it does hit the 10 minutes, checker flag comes out. That's qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and Erik Røseth is going to be your overall elite pole sitter. Meanwhile, it will be Casper Brotner, who is your pro pole sitter, and Simon Andre Livingston will be your AM pole sitter there. Congratulations to them for their qualifying laps, indeed to all the field who are able to put a lap in, but we also had a number of drivers who did not get laps on the board. And now, whilst we do have our 5-minute session, our warm-up session if you will, we would just like to take a breather and also to take a moment to let you know that if you are enjoying the broadcast thus far today, and indeed you've been tuning in to UK Sim Racing for some time, and if you've ever wondered potentially how you can support UK Sim Racing, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, including Swilliam Midder Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere and Demon Tweaks, and most recently Sim Race Communities Driver Academy. And well, if you want to know a bit more about our affiliates and the fact you could potentially capitalise on some discount codes which they do provide to us at UK Sim Racing, then we do recommend you firstly head to our website, which will appear on screen very shortly. And here is a website on screen, and then you just need to go to the Discord link in the top right corner. You can see the icon there. And why would you want to join the UK Sim Racing Discord? Well, firstly, if you want to race in any of our events, whether it's an official series or alternatively a one-off special event, you do need to be part of the UK Sim Racing Discord for race briefings and also information. It's a mandatory requirement, otherwise you can't be on the grid. But secondly, discount codes are available from some of our affiliates on our Discord, and indeed only on our Discord at UK Sim Racing. And if you do use one of those codes as part of your purchase, it results in a discount for you, which is an absolute win for you as the consumer, and also we get a kickback from your purchase at UK Sim Racing. But it's not a win for us on a private level, it's more of a win for the UK Sim Racing community on a wholesome level, for the simple reason every penny we make from affiliate purchases, well, every penny will be invested back into the community to fund future series, including the future seasons of the GT3 League and also the Porsche Cup, for we're a non-profit organisation, and first and foremost at our mind is good quality sim racing. So therefore, do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing, and I can tell you one thing, what has gone a very long way today is a good qualifying lap, and well, for some of our drivers, they've been absolutely able to nail it out of the box, whereas others have fallen behind a little bit, including the privateer in the Rexy Mobile of Thomas Polchak as he makes his way down through turn number 17 and onwards towards what is another lap here as he warms up with 3 minutes to go. And as we do say hello there to Alden Hegester, I do believe that's how I say your name, and if not, I do apologise, I must admit. My pronunciations of what is the Nordic names are perhaps not as great as they could be, but you can see they're saying let's go Racing Lab from a fellow Racing Lab driver. Well, it's great to have you tuning in with us, Alden, and well, great to see the cheering on of Racing Lab, a major team, and indeed got a lot of fans cheering in for them. But as we do look to Giles Phillips, meanwhile, another driver with a bit of a difficult qualifying session, and well, the Phillips GP driver in the Ferrari 488 Evo, definitely working with a car that's not known to do well in higher temperatures, and well, in terms of the form of the car, cars around here. We are expecting the Porsche 992 to go quite strong based on the current balance of performance. It seems to be quite strong everywhere it goes to at the moment, albeit it's not impossible to beat. It must be said, we have seen the BMW M4 really take the fight to the Porsche, and also we've seen the Ferraris in their element at certain occasions. But here with the high track temperatures, the Ferraris will really be exposed with regards to those rear tyres. Those rear tyres wear rather rapidly, and the warmer the track surface, the more easy it is to wear down those tyres before you're able to get a good lap in with the car. Meanwhile, at the other end of the spectrum, some cars which may prove to be a bit surprising here, the Mercedes AMG Evo. We're recommending you keep an eye out for these guys for the simple reason, including Rob Armstrong from UKSimRacing Moss, and also Mark Johnson, to name two drivers in the Mercedes. These cars are very strong in the straights. They lack a little bit of gumption in the corners, but the key point being here, if you're able to hold track position through the corners with it being difficult to overtake, and you're able to outpower your opponents down the straights, then you are going to feel quite safe. And if these guys are able to find some clear air, they may just be able to jump a good few places on strategy. And also, we do have a couple of unknowns in the field, and in particular, we do have the unknown of the McLaren MP4 12Cs, which are being piloted by Ian Manners and Martin Tindall, albeit they're not out on circuit at the moment, so we can't show you them. But the McLaren does go very well when it's in its element, but it's got to be driver and car absolutely synchronised up, and the car's got to be run on the ragged edge to get the most pace out of it. And meanwhile, as we do look to Heckenrestad in the BMW M4, again, we are expecting a strong showing from the BMW M4 drivers here, and Restad articulating that with second place in the qualifying session over on the elite class. But as he makes his way up towards turn at number one, meanwhile, we also see Steinar Sani in the BMW M4, the AM driver. He's all set and ready to go, and here is Steinar Sani, the driver right now P2 in the AM class championship, and I think he'll be itching for the fight here today as well. We will wait to see who is going to come out on top after 45 minutes of racing. We're not too far away from green flag racing, ladies and gentlemen. We're right now in the final 15 seconds of warm up, and we'll be going to the grid shortly for our first and only race here today at Virginia International Raceway. As the checker flag comes out in the warm-up session, all our drivers have had plenty of time to put the race setups on the car and also take a comfort break if they need to. But now they're going to be pushed out of their comfort zone. It's time for us to go racing. And as our drivers make their way to the grid, this is how they line up for today's race. Erik Røseth takes pole position for Racing Lab Esports AM on a 44.890. That's overall an elite pole by a margin of what is just shy of 700ths over Ignition Motorsport's Heckenrestad. Behind them, starting on the second row of the grid, it's Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport, the elite driver being joined by the pro pole sitter in P4, a Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars, with an absolutely spectacular lap, it must be said. We then come on to, starting on the third row of the grid, the parent of Sam Congreve for Empire Motorsport and what is Mark Davison, and then we will have behind them, what will be Martin Tillett and Thomas Asphaug, who will be starting at P7 P8. The TC Sport Kimi driver and the Racing Lab Esports AM2 driver following up behind the Empire Motorsport and UKSimRacing Price drivers. It's an absolutely thrilling top four rows of the grid, but let's not forget the fifth row as well to complete the top 10, and it's TC Sport Kimi's Ryan Davies, who is joined by Ryan Moles of ProTech Motorsport. We then have a Matt Strand from Racing Lab Esports AM3, who'll be starting at P11, second place in the pro category, with Ryan Walker starting alongside him for Satellite Racing, as Ryan Walker continues to fight to finish inside the top 10, and indeed that's overall and not just in class. And then as we come on to row at number 7, it's Aaron McGregor for ProTech Motorsport, who is joined by fellow pro driver Peak Sim Racing's Casper Dunstead, who put in a late qualifying lap and did very well to get that lap in the late stages of qualifying. And then it'll be Alexander Trino McCallison, who starts P15 for Racing Lab Esports AM on your 8th row, joined by UKSimRacing Price's Darren Sharples. We then have started off what is your 9th row of the grid. Let's get those numbers right. Rhys Saunders from Team Year 1. A difficult qualifying session for last week's winner overall, but the elite driver will know he can try and make a recovery in the race. And Simon Andre Livingston joins him starting P18, your AM pole sitter for Racing Lab Esports AM. Giles Phillips and Brandon Hay for Phillips GP and Newbridge Esports respectively make up your top 20 on row at number 10, with Frank Klein starting P21 for 9 She's at Autosport, second place AM driver there on his debut in season 11, and we have Marvin Cruz of Byatt Racing starting P22 alongside him. It's going to get feisty between the two AM drivers, we reckon, into turn number 1. Then starting on your 12th row of the grid, it's Peter Cox for UKSimRacing Clark, joined by Rob Armstrong for UKSimRacing Moss, and then behind them on row at number 13, we have Anne Lever for UKSimRacing Price, and the privateer of Bevan Thompson. Now on row number 14 is the parent of Steinar Sani for Racing Lab Esports AM2 and Mark Johnson for UKSimRacing Clark, followed up by Satinder Dean Sir for TC Sport Tyre, who picked up his first podium in the AM class in his UKSimRacing career last time out, and he is joined on the 15th row of the grid by Sander Rustad for Team Norway Racing, who definitely makes his debut today after technical issues stopped him from being on the grid last time out, and that's your top 30. Madman starts P31 for UKSimRacing Clark, joined by Old Dudes in Cars is Daniel Pace, who completes row number 16, with row 17 coming to Tom Barjak and Neil Smith, the disaster-prone racing driver there, looking to not have a disaster in the race, albeit qualifying could have perhaps gone a little bit better based on his relative pace. And Stephen Parker Hamilton for TPA Racing starts P35 on the 18th row, joined by Aaron Beaver, who starts P36 the privateer. On row number 19, it's TPA Racing's Jack Wyborn, and what a contrasting set of fortunes here today, starting from very far down the grid. The race winner last time out, and he's joined by Kerry Kokorin for Downforce Racing, and Sean Gaffney for Simulation Motorsport, and T-Sim Sport Kimmy's John Doble complete your top 40 on row 20. Row 21 goes to BJ Alvarez for Team Sim Racing Chicago, and he's joined by Stuart Pearson for Slow and Steady Racing, and Paul Joseph Cliff starts P43 for Olympus Esports, joined by James Conley for UK Sim Racing Moss, and starting by his lonesome on row number 23, last but not least, P45, is 52 Racing's Ian Manners, and well, that's how the grid will stand, ladies and gentlemen, and as our drivers all make their way down the back straight behind the safety car, we are not long away from going racing here at Virginia International Raceway, and well, we are only approximately a minute off now, so get yourself set. If you're not currently in place and you're not comfortable, you've only got about a minute before you can grab a glass of water, if that. Do it quickly. But as Røseth makes his way out towards turn at number 14, he'll feel as though he can get the job done if he gets a good launch into turn number 1. But will it be Heckel Gestad who's able to outpace him in the run? We'll have to wait and see. And meanwhile, we can confirm that Stuart Pearson is starting from the pit lane for Slow and Steady Racing, so he's opted to take the gamble there and staying out of trouble into turn number 1 and picking up the pieces potentially after he's released. And meanwhile, Ian Manners has not made it to the grid, so we've had one retirement thus far, we do believe, unless they can get the McLaren out there as soon as possible. So we will have 44 cars out of our 45 qualifiers out of the circuit, and as they all make their way down to Hogpen, very shortly safety car will peel away, and it will be to Erik Røseth to take us to the grid. It's lights out, away we go for what is our fourth race of the season as Røseth leaves the field behind as they charge out towards turn number 1. He times it well, but Heckel will stand under pressure as Joe Newman as they come into the opening corner, and as everybody roars their way on through. For the most part, it's 2-3 wide up and down the field. Simon Andre Livingston under some pressure early on from Frank Klein as Klein looks to try and get involved, but as they roll their way through the opening corner and now down into turn number 3, we can see Mark Davison versus Ryan Moles. Davison on the inside here battling for what is P7 in the elite class. Side by side into left hook they go, and as they do, well, both drivers are able to negotiate one another. It's not over yet as Moles goes outside to inside, gets the place back, and Aaron McGregor says don't mind do as the fellow Protect Motorsport driver capitalises on the door left open by his teammate as they make the way through the snake, and now for the first time they'll have to settle down into a rhythm as they head up towards the south bend. There's all of our drivers charged away on through. Right now it's been a calm start for most. Everybody safely negotiating the opening few corners, and as they head into a south bend, well, this could be where some drivers get caught out. As meanwhile, Jack Wyborn trying to make early progress here, looks up the inside of Barjot, but as they come on through, it's now too wide. Barjot their backs off. Wyborn being very aggressive. Meanwhile, we've had an instant further back, as I do believe we've had James Conley getting contact with another driver, but as everyone comes on through, well, Conley's fallen, and also BJ Alvarez involved in that contact between the two of them. We'll take a look back at that when we do have a moment, but meanwhile, as our drivers make their way through the hairpin, those have already cleared it and make their way up towards turn number 14, and here's the battle between Davison and what is Ryan Walker, as Walker tries to get involved, albeit he's a bit further back. The main focus is Thomas Aspau, who looks up the inside versus Davison, goes to move, and the Ferrari driver gets on through as he looks close to the back of Aaron McGregor, but as both drivers there now make their way on down through 15 and 16 in towards Hogpen at 17, everybody has to calm down once again. Overtakes become difficult, but you can see just how important track position is, and those who made gains early on in the race definitely right now feeling as though they've made it right. But after one lap of race, it's Erik Røseth who leads ahead of Heckel Gestad P2, followed by Joe Newman P3. And they have your pro leader Casper Brotner P4 behind the elite top 3. And then it's Sam Coggrey P5, Martin Tilley P6, Ryan Davies P7 ahead of Matt Strand P8, Ryan Moles P9, Aaron McGregor P10. And then you have a bit further back in P20, your AM leader, Asima Andre Livingston, who's had a good start so far, albeit he's under pressure on Frank Klein. And Klein has wasted no time in closing up to Livingston. And Livingston with quite a poor start overall, losing 2 places overall compared to his peers. And as we show you the overall standings here, we can take a look at the gains between drivers, and you can see that articulated in the fact that we do have that loss of places for Livingston of 2, whereas Klein's not gained or lost anything overall, but the key thing is Livingston has been thrown back to him. But the biggest gain inside that top 35 right now is Jack Wyborn. He's gained 4 places overall since the start, same as Charles Phillips in P15. But for Wyborn, it's critical as he needs to make headway here if he wants to try and chase down an opportunity to be on the podium once again in the AM class and make sure that lead he's commented for himself in the AM Championship is not going to be temporary. But as the drivers make their way on through up into South Bend, meanwhile we are hearing there's been a bit of an off for a driver, and in particular I believe Ryan Moles, where he's got it go very, very wrong, and well, he's rejoined. And they're coming out of Oak Tree. We're not quite sure what the story is with regards to what's happened to Moles as he now makes his way out to speed. He's lost a lot of places early on and finds himself on a side-by-side battle with Brandon Hay. We'll try and get a replay of what exactly happened there in short order. But Hay looks to move there and gets the place done, albeit the Pro driver only gaining overall and not class place as they come down. Oh, goodness me, and Moles tap in the rear there of Hay. I think that was unintentional, but just not comfortable with running so close in the dirty of the BMW, and the Porsche having a bit too much speed to shave off under braking. But they get away with it that time as they make their way through Hog Pen once again. But definitely an interesting couple of opening laps, albeit everything relatively stayed as they make their way up towards turn number 1 now, for it's the 3rd time of asking. And as they do, we do look back to what is Sean Gaffney here, the BMW M4 Amdrive Simulation Motorsport. He's gained 2 places in class since the start. He's moved up to P10 in class, looking for his first points here as they make their way onwards. And as he does, all tucking in behind Pace, they come down towards the braking zone. But I think here Pace will have the overspeed. Gaffney's going to think about this either way. He's going all in. Pace leaves the door open, but Gaffney then recognising that Apex is going to shut, and well, there Pace taking a bit of a risky approach to give Gaffney the opportunity to take a look inside, but in the end closing the door firmly and Gaffney having to back out. But now Aaron Beaver tries to get involved, and Neil Smith will find himself in this pro-am sandwich, if you will, whereby you have the 2 classes mingling with one another, and Beaver very eager to hunt down where's Daniel Pace, albeit he first needs to pick off Gaffney. Meanwhile, conversely, behind Beaver is Neil Smith, who wants to try and get Beaver out of the way to go chase after Gaffney. But still, whilst they try to push on, we do look from them up to P2 AM driver Frank Klein, who as he continues to chase that Simon Andre Livingston, we ride on board with the 9 Sheets of Autosport drivers. He breaks his way through turns 11 and 12, and let's just try and see where he's able to make some ground. Now exiting out of Oak Tree there, getting a relatively similar exit by comparison with the Ferrari driver, albeit the differential being here, the BMW does have a little bit more top end speed under its natural course. Meanwhile, the Ferrari does rely on a toe in order to be able to attain its very strong top speed. And as they make the way up towards turn 14, well, meanwhile, we have got a bit of an instant up the road. I believe Sam Congreve's fallen off the circuit around here. And well, there is Congreve rejoining as Klein steers clear of the wayward Empire Motorsport cars. It's a difficult start to the race for Sam Congreve, who does rejoin now P22 behind Peter Cox. He falls to P12 in the elite class, but as he comes on through, lap times continue to trickle down for our drivers, and Erik Røseth sets a new personal best, 45.545, albeit it's not the fastest lap in the elite class. If you want to find that, we are just scouring our data for you to try and figure out who set the fastest lap in the elite class. We'll give you that shortly. But meanwhile, in the battle for what is here, P23, that's Anne Lever up the inside of Marvin Cruz, taking the place of the AM driver, but Lever trying to make a bit more headway. He's gained 2 places overall since the start, but as he comes down towards the NASCAR bend at turn number 3, he'll know there's plenty more ground he needs to make if he wants to go hunting after some major pro points here today. But as he now settles down into rhythm, we take an opportunity to look back what happened between PJ Alvarez and James Connie on the opening lap, and here is a replay. Well, this is in the run for the 2 drivers going up towards South Bend. They came into turn 7 and contact there. Alvarez, I think, coming in a bit too hot into the corner. Meanwhile, I think Connie backing off slightly, and the 2 with their different speeds ended up in severe contact immediately. So therefore a disastrous start to the race for 2, and they both had to be towed to the pits, and we're hopeful they are able to go racing once again at some point. We then did have an incident for Ryan Moles, who fell off circuit, and this will happen on lap number 2 to Ryan Moles. And this was in the run towards turn number 11, misses brake, in fact taps the rear of what is the number 69 Pro car there of Matt Strand, and Moles ends up harrying himself onto the grass, rejoins afterwards that unexpected oversteer moment under the contact, and will the Protect Motorsport driver to get himself back up to speed, but not the way we wanted it to go. And we also had an incident for Jack Wyborn, the TPA Racing driver, on that same lap, made his way into South Bend. As he came through, missed his apex there, too much speed, and you can see the car fell off the road onto the grass, and at that point you are literally at the mercy of momentum and trying to stop the car gradually, which he did so. To be fair, everybody's seen him rejoining it on the inside of turn 11, the best way Wyborn can get it done, and therefore rejoining right into the battle with the number 92 at Paul Joseph Clears. Well, those are some of the major incidents that happened at the start of this race, ladies and gentlemen. We have had a couple of others, including what happened to Sam Congreve, as we say hello to Sight and to the ear that the YouTube chat says, I don't think they'll buff out in relation to the BJ Alvarez James Conley incident. Well, meanwhile, we are back to your live pictures here, and with all the battling that's unfolding, we look to the front of the field, and here are your top two of Erik Røseth and Erik Røseth as Joe Newman continues to fall away, albeit Newman now 4.5 seconds behind the top two. And I do think here Røseth and Røseth are pushing one another much harder. Meanwhile, Joe Newman just focusing on that P3 as he makes his way up through turns 7, 8 and 9. But as they make the way up, here is Martin Tillin, P4 in the elite class, P5 overall. He's on the back of your pro leader, Casper Brotner, as the McLaren MP4 12C driver here for TC Sport Kimmy. Definitely seems to enjoy this car. He has a bit of difficulty when he's previously run it, but today the car always seems to be hooked up. And as he makes his way out of Oak Tree Corner, I think he is eager to make the pass of Brotner. He wants to get this done. And based on paper right now, we do believe that Tillin is the faster driver versus Newman when he's got clear air in front of him. And you can see in the draft here, he's getting closer and closer. I think it might be a sneak peek to the inside here in turn 14. Tillin thinks about it, but decides he hasn't got the overspeed and has to settle in. Perhaps to be a run into turn number 1. And as they come down from the right-hander of 14A, well, Tillin's going to get this done. He's going to need to get it done soon for the simple reason that Newman right now may only be 1.7 seconds up the road, but they'll very quickly end up taking some compound interest to it. And well, by the time he knows that when he's made the move for P4 overall, he'll then find himself having to close up a gap that's too late to close up. As we do enter what's the 10th minute of racing now, so tries to make the way onto lap number 6. And as they come across the timeline with Tillin getting closer, still just not able to find the moves. We see John Doble there a lap down and letting the field go as best as he can. And well, Tillin does have the pressure of Ryan Davies behind him, or with the two TC Sport Kimmy drivers. I don't think we'll try and battle one another too hard, but you can definitely see now that Tillin eager to get this move done. But meanwhile, looking from them to a bit further back, here is Bevan Thompson, who's looking for the move around the outside of Steinar Sani, as we can see the P10 Pro driver here looking for the move on the P3 AM driver. And meanwhile, off the circuit has gone Sam Congreve once again. He's had another bit of a trip to the scenery, and the Empire Motorsport driver rejoins at turn at number 1's exit. But what on earth has gone wrong for him, we're not quite sure. We have also had a couple of incidents for other drivers, including an incident for what I do believe is Rob Armstrong that seemed to be towed to the pits. The same for Sander Rustad as well. We will try and get a replay of what happened to them very shortly. And in fact, I do believe we have a replay of what happened to Sander Rustad, and it is on your screen now. Well, this was the Team Norway Racing driver making his way into turn 14. Oh, goodness me, just putting the rear right tire to the grass. Car letting go, and meanwhile Rob Armstrong getting it wrong with his own volition, and Marvin Cruz also getting it wrong as well. So Marvin Cruz and Sander Rustad both having to be towed to the pits, and I believe Rob Armstrong after that incident also having to be towed shortly after. So all three drivers, they're falling off the circuit in their own quick succession, and what a difficult moment for all three of them. But as more racing continues here, we are having incidents with Daniel Page, Aaron Beekman, Kerry Corcoran as well. Those who are able to stay on circuit right now are gaining a plethora of time as a result. And the question being asked there by Simon B in the YouTube chat, have we gone over 50 degrees centigrade track temperature? Well, let's take a look at that for you, ladies and gentlemen, and we can see no, we're at 42 degrees centigrade track temperature right now. So it does look as though, in fact, track temperature has fallen compared to where we started. That will make the race a little bit more comfortable for our drivers, but we're still above 40 degrees centigrade, and therefore tyre wear is going to be absolutely on the limit all the way through from start to finish. But also we can see that ambient temperature has stayed consistent at 26 degrees, so it's the cloud layering over the circuit that definitely seems to be changing up the way this track is evolving. But as we see Congreve chasing down what is now a pack of AMs and pros, it's first way Sean Gaffney as he goes up the inside in turn 1. He's also got it for the move here on Barjak into the apex at once. It's going to be a double pass here for the elite driver, but as he tries to get into this, Sean Gaffney says, okay, we're under a bit of pressure now, as he tries to fend off towards Barjak. In fact, I think he was going for the move there, and Gaffney has made it count from outside to inside. Barjak just all out to blaze, and in the simulation motorsport driver from Scotland able to capitalise on the door that was presented to him. But as they now make the way out through the snake and onwards towards turn 7, 8 and 9, meanwhile, as these drivers push on, you can see Congreve going for another move here. This is going to be bold as he looks for Parker Hamilton into turn 7. Now Parker Hamilton has no need to give this up, but he is going to respect the fact that Congreve's there, and they come together as they make the way through turn number 8, and with that Congreve slides, and as he tries to catch the car, well, he does so, and in fact an absolutely brilliant catch there, but for Stephen Parker Hamilton not quite so, as he turns the car around, and the TPA Racing driver may be a bit frustrated with that one. That goes to show you what happens if you try to go too wide through turns 7, 8 and 9. You've both got to really give one another space, and even more so, otherwise it can end up in very quick contact. But meanwhile, we look from what's happened behind to a bit further up the road. Bevan Thompson here, under pressure from Mark Johnson, as Johnson trying to get into the fight. And we are hearing that both Parker Hamilton and Congreve have both had to be towed to the pits for the damage they picked up in their respective contacts. And as they come on down towards what is turn number 17, we have had a change up the front of the field where Haakon Grestad has lost P2. And in fact, now Joe Newman is in P2 in the elite class. We will take a look at what exactly has happened there very shortly. Good spot from a good number of you in the chat. And we'll add Thompson chases after, where Steiner standing in front of him. Mark Johnson's still there waiting to pounce, but can't quite find it at the moment. And meanwhile, more cars off here. That's Mark Davison, who's fallen out of the top 10 elite class. And with him, I do believe that is Aaron McGregor, who's just rejoined, so they've had to come in together of some description. But first things first, as we look to Newman versus Haakon Grestad, well, we're not going to cut away to the story as to why Grestad's behind Newman immediately. We're going to stay here with a battle between the two of them as we ride on board and look back from the rear of the Empire Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan Evo. And as they make their way through the turn 11-12 hairpin, we'll roll in towards the end of the first third of this race. Right now, Newman in absolutely an airtight pressure situation. It turns out that Erik Røseth is 5 seconds up the road, but Newman right now has got his hands full trying to fend off the driver who wants to put the pressure on Røseth from time to time. As they power their way up towards turn number 14, we see the Marvin Cruz letting them go. Meanwhile, behind, we can confirm that Martin Tilling has just made the move with Casper Botnat out of Oak Tree hairpin, so therefore Tilling is now in P4. And we'll be trying to hunt down these guys for the overall top 3. And as they go all the way up towards turn number 17 into Hog Pen, well, Newman here absolutely needed perfection from lap to lap and quarter to corner now. If he wants to keep Grestad at bay, keep in mind, of course, Grestad, your current defending champion in the league class. And, well, Grestad decided to go to the M4 to mix things up this season for the Porsche 991 to the BMW M4, staying with the German manufacturers. But as they make their way down to the brains over turn number 1, Newman here staying safe right now. But to answer the question of what exactly started all of this, we had an off-track for Grestad, and this is exactly how it transpired. Making his way into turn 11, just outbroke himself there, ran wide, and the car letting go, and a slight biff to the tyre barrier there with the rear bumper. That will cost him a little bit of a rear downforce, but at the same time should not compromise him too much. And as we return to your live pictures, that explains how Newman got on through. And well, in the meantime, we've also had a number of incidents since then, including the McGregor Davison incident, and we can see that both of them are still on circuit, but we're not quite sure what exactly triggered that. We will try and get a replay of it very shortly, but whilst all this is playing out, we've got to look back to the pro class here. This is the battle for P4 Pro right now, and yes, before you say, is that Brandon Hay leaving a pack of 4 pros, you would be correct. That is Hay ahead of Phillips, then Tunstead and Sharples behind. The incidents, plus the fact we've got multiple league drivers which are still trying to carve their way through the field, has led to these guys coming together, and Brandon Hay right now is tucked in behind Rhys Saunders, the elite P8 driving class, who is trying to make progress behind Tremino McCalson. As McCalson goes deep, Saunders gets the door open. This could be P3 for Hay as they make their way out the corner. Now, will McCalson be able to get the power down? He's going to be given the toe here by Saunders. I think Saunders feeling a little bit guilty in the fact he essentially edged Tremino McCalson wide. He's had to do that at the hairpin, and therefore is giving him the toe as compensation. But Hay's not going to back out of this. It's a long run into turn 14, but which of Hay and Tremino McCalson is going to back out side by side into 14? Hay's going to have the inside into 14A, and Brandon Hay moves up into a podium position for the pro class today as they make their way through 15. Now as they come for a left-hander and all the way down towards Hog Pen. Meanwhile, up the road, we're hearing that Martin Tilling has had an incident. In fact, he's just trying to rejoin the next at Hog Pen. The TT6 for Kimi drives falling off the circuit. Everybody respects the fact. Oh, goodness me! Well, one car didn't quite make the mark, and that's Peter Cox, who with that incident makes his way into the pit lane. Car runs wide there as Tilling tries to get off the racing line, but that contact with Cox has collapsed the rear right suspension. It's a disaster for the two Britons, and now as they both make their way into the pits, well, Cox had to be towed from the inside of the pit lane. Tilling now will have to try and creep his way to the pit lane with broken suspension, but what a moment there. And in all this, Frank Klein goes for the move for the lead of the AM class. Meanwhile, for 9 Sheets of Autosport, up the inside of Stephen Andre Livingston, and he's got it done. He takes it into turn number 1, and Livingston cannot come back at him in the run through NASCAR at turn 3 into 4-5. They're tucked to mind Aaron McGregor, and well, as they make their way on towards West Snake Corner, let's take a look back at exactly how that happened. Well, it was a good run from McGregor firstly on Livingston, and Livingston there being caught out. You can see he wanted to turn in, and Klein simply said, okay, the door's that wide open, don't mind if I do, and went all in for it. The number 76 driver there being the opportunist and really making it count. A nice move for the lead of the AM class. Oh, wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Andre Livingston tries to come back at him in due order, given the fact the Ferrari driver here is really going to give it everything. And keep in mind, he has been denied a win whenever he's been in leading position through one reason or another. We've got a car parked there, and I believe that car that was just parked up, goodness me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had even more drama. That was Casper Brotner, your pro leader, who was parked on the exit of Oak Tree and had to be towed to the pit. And, well, that means now we have Matt Strand who leads the pro class by 5 seconds over Brandon. Now, you could not make this up. It's the VIR circuit that continues to give drama from corner to corner and lap to lap. And well, what exactly happened to Casper Brotner? We will get a replay of that very shortly. But right now, we are going to focus on our live pictures as we make our way onto our 11th lap of racing. And this is the battle for P3 in the pro class between Trino Carlson and Charles Phillips. And Phillips here has really been picking up the places. So you see there, takes a bit of a scramble to the outside as we ride on board with the Ferrari driver. Mickelson goes a bit deep. Phillips tries to get his nose in there. And well, the Phillips GP driver, he can sniff as much as he wants, but sometimes you can't find moves that tight on the run into the apex. And Trino Mickelson, they're squeezing the door enough to say to Phillips, look, you might want to consider your options. And Phillips saying, yep, it's not the best way to do it this time. But as they make their way through 4 and into 5, going through the left into right here, it does look as though with Casper Tunstead only 4 tenths behind in P5 of the class. Right now, Phillips very eager to make his way on through, and the Ferrari drivers here really coming alive in the race in the pro class. It seems as though these lower track temperatures compared to qualifying are just giving them a new lease of life, and Phillips going very strongly at the moment. But the problem is he's got to try and pick his way on through, and well, here with the fact that Trino Mickelson has got Marvin Cruz as a lap down in front, Cruz will eventually move aside, or at least give space for the pair to make the way on through, but it's so difficult here, and that's why having track position is critical. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some undercut pit stops soon. We've already had one driver into the pits, that was Mark Davison, who's coming in for his pit stop, but meanwhile, plenty more drivers out there trying to make runs in these strategy games, and who's going to be the first one to flinch here, as Phillips in the tow once again tries to look for the move into turn 14. He's got the overspeed here. Trino Mickelson does not move aside, he wants the inside into 14A, and as they cover it's left, right, and as they charge into the braking zone, Phillips gets it done, puts the car in front as they roll down the hill, and Charles Phillips moves up into P3 in the pro class there in a classic move. And Trino Mickelson, I think at this point in the race, focusing on managing the car first and foremost, and hoping that Phillips can overcook the tyres as they come roaring on through Hog Pen and on to the next lap. Well, meanwhile, we do need to take a look back at what happened in particular to Casper Brotner, your pro leader, only months gone, lap number 10. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of what happened to Brotner. Well, as he made his way down into turn number 11 on the brakes there, and rear left tyre going onto the grass in that camera angle, and a nasty shunt to the tyre barrier. And for the old dudes in cars driver, well, it's not going to be able to get that car into the pits, and he's had to take a tow because he's tried to bring it back on, and I suspect the suspension is just in a state of disrepair. And in the end, I realised it, noticing that he couldn't point the car in a straight line, and that was Brotner's race brought to an abrupt halt. He's still in this race, but right now it's not going to be an opportunity of winning the pro class. Although I say that, you never know what can happen here. Over 45 minutes of race, it's still 25 to go. But as we look at these live pictures right now, it is definitely one for the books here at VIR. But as our drivers head on through, meanwhile, we do have what is a battle side by side here between Sean Gaffney and Satinder Deanster for P4 in the AM class. They make the way through turn number 5. Neither one wants to back out through Snake, but Gaffney in the end says enough's enough. I'm putting my foot down, and Deanster does back off, and I think it's a wise move from the American Deanster for the simple reason here they do not want to take each other off the road so early. They are both battling for top 5 finishes, and also they've got to be wary of this man behind them, Roger, who is closing up in the number 14 Porsche 992, and he's capitalising where they're all battling hard. But as they come all the way down towards the braking zone for turn at number 11 and 12, right now Roger closing up rapidly as they roll the way through the right-hander, and it's all now about patience here from Barget. The Briton will know that time will come. He's just got to invest here and play it smart, because Deanster will be coming back at Gaffney. I don't think there's any question about that as the two BMW drives squab over P4 in the AM class. Barget would love to take the pair of them as they charge their way down towards what is the final few quarters to conclude what will be their 12th lap of the race here. Meanwhile, we do look from them to Heckel Gristad, and Gristad has found his way back past Newman, we should say, and well, as they make the way on around here through turn number 3 at NASCAR Bend, the big question is how exactly did this happen? Well, we do have a replay coming up, and it explains exactly why. In fact, we have the replay right on screen now. We as the run down towards turn number 14 on the back straight. Newman going defensive into 14, but he knows Gustad here pinning the car on the outside. Newman in, I think, lifting off slightly there on apex, and again, I think Newman more concerned about simply trying to battle for P2, but if he takes a P3 here today, he'll be very pleased with that, given the state of the competition in the elite class, where the threshold to be on that podium is so challengingly high. But as we return it to your live pictures, Newman definitely right now running a solid race, even in P3, and Gustad knowing that it's a 6-second gap to Røseth, who seems to be completely in control of this race. And here is your race leader, Erik Røseth, for Race Lab Esports AM, and will no signs whatsoever right now of any pressure manifested itself. Indeed, he looks absolutely as cool as a cucumber as he heads up towards turn number 14. But charging all the way in to the left into right here, Røseth right now keeping the momentum going, and well, with that, when will he decide to pit? Well, it is shoes. I think he'll decide to pit last of everybody, but meanwhile, two drivers won't be thinking about pitting right now. Here's Aspal on the inside, all the way to Davies. And Davies in a bit of contact there, and the TT what Kiwi driver sent to the grass. I think it's a tiny tap between the two of them, but it's drama in the end for Ryan Davies, and we will take a look back at what exactly happened there as he tries to rejoin, but not the way he wanted it to go whatsoever for the number 85 driver as he brings the car back onto circuit. And well, we can get a replay of how that happened, and here we go with regards to a replay. So right on board here with Thomas Aspal as he looks to the move into 14, and I think we are just going to see a little bit of a tap between the two of them. In fact, we won't see it from Aspal's perspective, so we will take a further look back there from what is the exterior cameras of the two cars as they made the way down, focusing on what is at Davies, and as they came into the corner, it looks as though a tiny bit of netcode contact between them sent Davies to the grass, and well, that's very unfortunate. I think both drivers gave each other the space, but in the end, netcode was the differentiator between them. At least that's what we've seen on camera. And as we do now return to your live pictures, we still do have just under half the race remaining, and Davies 9 is still plenty of time to recover. He's down in P7. Strategy will be compromised by the off, and now he's got to try and pick his way up the hard way. It's 13 seconds to Rhys Saunders, in fact 14 seconds all in all, and Davies has got a long way to go racing. As the drivers make their way on through it. Meanwhile, one driver is still trying to make further headway. Currently P5 in the AM class. It is Thomas Boljak as he chases after Stinder Diensa as they come on through 5 and into Snake, and all the way up the hill they go into the right for South Bend. And you see that Gaffney starting to break away. I think Diensa struggling a little bit at this midpoint in the race, maybe backing the car off due to tyre temperature or trying now to extend the stint further with regards to the remaining fuel. But either way, the TT Sport driver has grown pressure from the privateer in the Rexy Mobile as they head up towards turn number 10. Boljak here just waiting into 11-12. He goes on the brakes, and no real way to come at Diensa at the moment, particularly given the fact that he will not have the straight line speed compared to the BMW, but he has the cornering, and that gap is very gradually trickling down. It's only a tenth or two a lap, but Boljak making it work. Meanwhile, in the pit lane, as I look at my contact booth window, we have had Hekel Gustad coming from P2 over in the elite class, so he's decided to go early. Whether that's the right move or not, we'll have to wait and see, but the majority of the field still yet to pit, and that is the big question mark right now. Where do you come out from an early pit stop respective to your rivals and the other cars in the field? As Aaron McGregor's also in, Frank Klein is also in, and as they make their way on around it to complete their laps, do we see any of the AM drivers here outside of the podium? Well, Sean Gaffney comes in from third place. Meanwhile, Diensa and Boljak continue to race. In fact, Boljak now closing as they make it onto the start for straight. A really solid run out of Hogpen. It does seem as though those sweeping corners, those medium to high speed corners, where Boljak just feels a lot more comfortable, and also in the low speed apexes, he's able to get the power down a little bit more, which we'd expect from the Porsche. Meanwhile, Diensa just able to run away once he gets himself onto a straight there, so using the front of the BMW M4 to keep himself healthy in this battle. As they come out to turn number 3 and up towards 4, you can see that closure was right on board here with the Britain, and well, coming all the way through this mid-Porsche lap, it's going to be now about who gets the better out of the corner. Dirty area there as well will compromise the front end rotation of Boljak's car, but as they power the way on through, half a second is the gap. He's going to be in the tow, a bit of a distant tow, as they make the way onwards towards turn 7, 8 and 9, and this is where the number 14 driver really has to be wary of the fact how the front end of the car is going to change in behaviour as they go left, right, left onto the grass. He goes and he tries to correct it. He catches it, and what a catch from the number 14 driver. He may right now skip to corner and be required to give the time back from the automated stewarding system, but I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't quite get it to turn number 11, just as about to sing his praises, and well, the commentators curse their strikes for the privateer of Boljak for the simple reason that was a brilliant catch, but with the dirt on the tyres, just was not able to get it started for the hairpin, but he's able to stay in the race. He's not lost any places so far on track, but we do reckon he's going to lose some places based on strategy now, but still that could have been curtains for his race, but it wasn't to be, and that's all come down to his driving ability there to keep the car under control. Brilliant stuff there from the number 14 driver, but meanwhile, whilst all this is playing out, we have had our race leader come into the picture, Erik Røseth. He's come back out, and as he does so, he's got Rob Armstrong there coming up behind, albeit Armstrong is a lap down. So I think Armstrong will hold formation behind rather than try and make a cheeky move to unlap himself, and Røseth comes out in P4 behind Ryan Davies, who's yet to pit. So therefore it does look as though for Røseth Racing Lab Esports AM, it's all coming together and he's bought himself some space. And the most interesting part of this is that Hekel Gustad is at 6.5 seconds behind. They both had identical pit stop times, 15.5 seconds stationary, but Gustad right now with a 6-second gap to what we believe is the effective race leader when all the pit stops are done. Gustad has got a long way to go, and he has not really gained anything in the pit, and he's not lost anything either. That 6 seconds stands, and therefore now it's Gustad versus which Joe Newman, albeit Newman is 2 seconds behind him, we can confirm. They've all pitted the top three in the elite class. Tos Aspalg and Rhys Saunders still racing out there, as is Ryan Davies, but we're expecting them to fall back into P4, P5 as a minimum once they do eventually take their mandated pit stops. And as our drivers head on through here, meanwhile we do continue to see battling up and down the field, and the big battle at the moment is Satinder Dinsa, who is chasing after Erik Røseth, and in fact we've had a bit of a shake-up here in the AM class since the pit stops, in the fact that right now the only AM driver yet to take their pit stop in terms of the one that's expected as part of strategy is Barja, who is your leader in the AM class. He is 10.6 seconds ahead of Simon Andre Livingston, and Livingston has made his stop, and then Frank Klein is a further 4 seconds behind. So it does seem to be going the way of Livingston at this time, but we'll have to wait to see if that's how it plays out in practice. Again, strategy very hard to call at the moment, given the fact that from moment to moment we're seeing drivers drop it on circuit, make mistakes, and therefore it's shaking the field up. And more speaking of the field, we look to the overall standings here, your top 35, and you can see how we do have what is effectively a top 6 of elites, but then we have 4 pros who finish off the top 10, and then elite pros and AMs all intermingled here in a rather arrayed fashion, and therefore it is leading to this exchange whereby we are seeing drivers now really having to battle the way through the other class drivers in order to get themselves into a battle right at the end of this race. And whilst Dinsa continues to try and chase down what is Erik Røseth to gain an overall position of feeling comfortable versus Steinar Sani, as Sani goes a bit deep there, 14, just catches the car before 14A. And coming off the corner now, Sean Gaffney and Neil Smith not too far behind and still trying to make a bit further progress. But really the big bit of progress here is the slow and steady racing driver Stuart Pearce. Remember, this is the car that started from the pit lane, the number 88 BMW M4, and it's made its way into the top 10 of the AM class, with the fact we do have a grand total of 17 AMs in attendance here today. We had a couple of retirements for Pearson investing in that the pit lane start, and where it has played out in his favour, and the SAS Racing Team driver now absolutely doing everything right to try and bring home some points on the board as he comes down the round through turn 16 into 17. Not a long way to go now. Final third of the race unfolding with 15 minutes on the clock plus the final lap. But that is your top 35 on screen, ladies and gentlemen. And well, in the meantime, we now look back to the class battles, and in particular, this is the battle for P2 in the Pro class. It's Charles Phillips versus Brandon Hay, and Phillips has been able to jump Hay based on strategy, with the fact there's a 1 second differential between the two in their stationary time, and Hay spending an extra second in the pit lane as well. I think that he wasn't quite able to get the car started as rapidly as Phillips' Ferrari, so therefore the BMW driver now is going to have to do things the hard way on circuit as they come down through 14 and 14A, and will Hay stay as close as he can as we ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver. He's got Brian Walker behind the P6 elite driver, but I think Walker won't want to get too heavily involved in this unless he feels so he can clear Hay comfortably, given the fact that Walker right now P9 overall. His next target is Rhys Saunders, who we believe has just left the pit lane, so therefore Saunders is within reach technically of Walker. We'll give you an update on that gap very shortly. Saunders, you can see, just come out of the pit lane up front, albeit it's a bit of a speck in the camera, but I can assure you he is there. And all good, it's be Walker trying to take a little bit of a lunge there versus Hay going into turn number 1. You can see that using the central rear view dash camera, and as they make the way through turn 2 into 3, Walker right now I think eager to get on through because Saunders is only 2 seconds up the road, and for Walker it will be a top 5 finish in the elite class if he's able to carve his way through. As the drivers make the way up through left hook into turn 5, and now out onto the snake they go. We can see here how it is going to be pros and elites all intermingled together for the remainder of this race inside the bottom portion of the top 10. But as they head up towards South Bend, Walker here still doing everything right for Satellite Racing, going from strength to strength this season and looking for another top 5 as he comes up the hill and into the braking zone. But first he needs to clear Hay and Phillips if in order to go hunting after Saunders, and Saunders will have his own agenda to try and hunt down where's Matt Strand and then go hunting after P4 in class Thomas Aspau as they head all the way up towards what is turn at number 14 now. On the charge they go, but as they do, meanwhile we do look from these guys to a bit further up the road to Rhys Saunders himself, and this is Saunders under pressure from Phillips in fact as they head in towards the braking zone in front. That's Conley and Edmondson battling for position as they make their way on through, and I think Conley there will get the move as Edmondson tries to come back. Meanwhile Saunders now carves his way on through. It's all stacked together and Saunders goes around the outside of Edmondson there, coming through 15 into 16. The Team Year 1 driver picking the right opportunity to put a car between himself and what is the charge of, I believe, Phillips as we went to the pit lane. Comes with James Conley for his scheduled stop. I think he's needed a bit more fuel in the car, given the fact that Conley was involved in that early instance, therefore he was not able to take what would be his fuel stop in that early pit stop. Meanwhile Brandon Hay all at the back of Phillips as they come into turn number 1, but Saunders goes overly deep. Edmondson gives clearance. Meanwhile Walker's going to get involved in this, and this could prove to be critical for Walker right now. He can get into the fight as Hay goes side by side with Saunders into NASCAR bend, closes the door, and as they make the way on through, we look back from the rear of the 96 Newbridge Esports BMW and coming through left hook into the right hander now. It definitely looks as though Phillips and Hay have been able to turn the tables on their elite peers for the simple reason they've leapt ahead of Saunders, and now Saunders has been forced right into the battle for P5 in the elite class with Brian Walker behind. As they make the way up towards South Bend this time, interesting to see the amount of respect being given between them all is absolutely fantastic, but still the ferocity of the racing just seems to up in the ante every single time. As they come in to what is here turn number 10, rolling on through and down into 11. Well, no way through at the moment for Hay versus Phillips, and the same for Walker versus Saunders as they come off the corner. But meanwhile, looking from them, we look to Paul Joseph Bliss, who has just been passed by Rob Armstrong for P32 overall. Paul Joseph Bliss P9 in the AM class, having started P16 in the class. Another stalwart of gainers today as he makes his way down through turn number 17 and on towards the end of this lap. Charging all the way up towards turn number 1 they go, and as they do, still plenty of time here as Chris will be wary of the fact that he's still got a race to finish in order to get those points on the board. But Olympus Esports drive having a solid day here today at VIR, and meanwhile fastest lap of the race overall and in the lead class, Erik Røseth with 45.42. Røseth now absolutely putting in some fantastic laps, qualifying laps to try and make sure he gets that fastest lap point as well as the pole position point, going for a perfect score here today. But as the drivers make the way on around, Joseph Bliss meanwhile still in it to win it, and as we look from them back to Sazinda Diensa, here is the T6 what Toa driver are up to, we should say, given the fact he's further up the order in the AM class, P3 in class at the moment. Still trying to hold off Steiner, Sani and Sean Gaffney to make it another podium, trying to add to his first podium in his UKSimRacing GT3 League career from MotorLand Aragón last time out. And as the American makes his way through Hogpen corner, 10 minutes to go, but look at this, it's the battle of the trio of BMWs as Gaffney looking every which way past Sani. Sani wants to go after Diensa, but he can't because Gaffney's right there, and as they make the way towards turn number 1, well, Diensa just needs to defend to the inside, force Sani to focus more on Gaffney. Gaffney looks around the outside, and he's going to go for 1. Is he going to try for 2? Well, I think he's going to focus on just 1 here as it's side by side between Sani and Gaffney up towards Woody's NASCAR bend. A little bit coming together between them there, rubbing pain as they make the way. Gaffney lunges into NASCAR. Meanwhile, Sani on the outside, elbowed wide slightly in terms of space allotted, and as they come into left hook, Gaffney still there, left into right, but as they come through the right hander, Sani comes back, drops to the curb, backs the car off, gives Gaffney the space. Any more than that and they would have both gone round. Brilliant racing, but Sean Gaffney gets the move done for P4, and what a move for the Simulation Motorsport driver now as he tries to chase down Diensa for what will be his first podium of the season if he can make this right. But if he can't, still be a valiant drive for P4 and to fend off one of the fastest names in the AM class in the form of Steiner Sani is no mean feat in its entirety. But as they make the way up towards the turn 11-12 hairpin at the moment, things will calm down. I think Diensa will be very aware of the fact that right now he's exchanged one fast chasing rival for another. He's not going to be given any breathing room as they power their way down the back straight while the closest battle's out on the circuit. We're going to stay with it for the time being, ladies and gentlemen, as they make the way up towards turn number 14. Now as they charge them through here, of course, one of the big considerations now, and it'll be on the minds of our drivers, will be have they taken enough fuel to get to the end of the race? Have they measured the tyres correctly? But you've got to try and put that out the window and focus on what you've been able to do, and also let the strategy masters do that in terms of the people on the pit wall. As the drivers come down through a turn at number 16 to 17, riding over the curve there, Gaffney are really aggressive by comparison with Dean. So Dean's not comfortable with running over those raised curves, puts the car in the middle of the road. Frank Klein's just recently had off track and he's returned. He's in P2, you can see him there just up in the distance, 8/10 of closing, and as they make their way into turn 1, Gaffney goes all in on the brakes. He tries to make it another move into turn 1, and the Simulation Motorsport driver does, but as he overcooked it here, as they make their way through the corner, it doesn't look like he has. He brings the car back together, and the Scotsman moves up into the podium places. Well, now his next target will surely be Frank Klein, who's only 8/10 on the road. Meanwhile, Sally makes a mistake there on the apex at turn number 3 in NASCAR Bend. Battling with James Conley here as Conley gets him through. Conley is a lap down in the AMCARs, but unlaps himself, and Sally right now will want Conley a steer clearance. Conley almost loses it there coming through Snake Bend, and as they make their way up towards turn 7, 8 and 9, you can see the frustration there for Sally. The race lap Esports AM2 driver is being deprived to the right to battle for a podium here for the simple reason he's gone the long way back. But as they make their way on up towards what is South Bend, meanwhile we look from them back to Frank Klein. And Klein with absolutely stellar pace here in qualifying the early stage of the race, but I do believe an instant or two has cost him slightly dear on home soil. But at the same time, right now, he's going to do everything he can to keep Gaffney at bay. He will not want to lose out on a second place as they make their way down the back straight in the charge here. And as they head up towards what is turn at number 14, Gaffney right now is in his ascendancy. Well, I don't know what they told him in the pit stop, but they've definitely motivated him to give it everything. And right now, Sean Gaffney, who started P12 in the AM class today, what was P39 on the grid, is right now P23 overall, P3 in class, and he's trying to go one step further here as they make their way down through 16 into Ogpen at 17, rolling on through. It's still plenty more laps to go here with 7 minutes on the clock, and as they head up towards turn number 1, where it's all now going to be in the hands of whether he can make one last move come to fruition. But as he charges on past the pit lane and onwards towards lap number 22, meanwhile we do look from this growing battle for P2 in the AM class, I should say, to the battle for P2 in the Pro class, I now correctly say, and this is Charles Phillips versus Brandon Hay as they head up towards turn number 11. They have got Stuart Pearson in front of them, who is a lap down in the AM class, the P10 AM driver, and we get the feeling that Pearson will very likely let them go on the long straight here, not without gifting the toe to Phillips. And as Phillips makes his way up to speed here, you see that Ferrari really now start to gain as it pushes into 4th and 5th gear, sequentially all the way up to 6th, albeit Phillips now looking around the outside, and well, hey, they'll be flashing his lights to try and say, would you mind also doing the same for me, please? Are you steering clear as I try to chase down Phillips? And well, Pearson says, I will do indeed. With this being communicated by actions on the circuit, not over voice comms, and as they make the way down through turn number 14 and 15 and in towards 16, right now Phillips will know he's not really been able to gain too much. He's been able to put a 10th between himself and Hay as a result of Pearson's toe, but at the same time Hay is able to close out very rapidly through medium speed corners, and particularly that last sector of the circuit, Hay seems to have it nailed down as they make their way onto the next lap. But Phillips here does have one thing that's advantage, and simply put his track position, and it's so key here at VIR. We have seen it so many times, and as they come through turn at number 1, meanwhile we do look to Gaffney versus Klein, and this battle is inching closer and closer to reality here now. 3.5 times as they come down through 14 and 14A, dropping on through and in towards the last 2 corners of this lap. With the time remaining, we are expecting, given our race leaders already up at Oak Tree hairpin once again, that we are going to have a grand total of 3 more laps, including the one they're about to go on to as they head onto what them is lap number 23. We may have another one on top of that as well, but we're having to do quick maths here. And as they head up towards turn at number 1, meanwhile, we also do look to the battle for P5 in the elite class, and this is Saunders versus Walker. And in fact, Hay quite recently has lost out. I think he's made a mistake somewhere going on to this lap, because Brandon Hay's lap time has fallen away versus Phillips, and Saunders here will want to try and pick his way past Hay to give himself the opportunity to keep Walker at bay as they make their way through turns 11 and 12. Now, what's notable here with the BMW train that started to form of the 3 BMW cars well, Saunders and Walker definitely seem to be quite even, albeit Walker's the more comfortable of the two to run close in dirty air. Meanwhile, Saunders, by comparison, just not able to get the launch off the corners compared to his clear air runs. And the team at Year 1 drivers still making great progress here, having got up to P5 in the elite class and P11 on the starting grid. So therefore, he'll feel as though everything is coming together, albeit he wanted a win, or at least a podium as a minimum. But right now, I think he'll be content with P5 if he can keep Walker there. But Ryan Walker still trying to probe at what could be an opportunity as they make the way onto the next lap, coming through the long right hand. And meanwhile, Saunders is into the pits. He hasn't got the fuel. That's the only reason I can foresee. And as the number 64 driver makes his way down pit row, well, it's going to be a difficult end today for the Team Year 1 driver as he does come into his pit box. Fuel has to go into the car. And Ryan Walker will therefore inherit what will be P5 in the elite class, and with the satellite racing driver on course what I do believe is his first top 5 of the season in the class as he makes his way in to turn number 3. And in fact, Saunders a very quick pit stop, 4.73 second stage 3 time. That's a fuel stop and that's emergency fuel. But as they make the way in to a left hook here, now Walker will just feel as though all he's got to do is keep Ryan Moles at bay, and Moles is 2 seconds behind with Pearson between the two of them. And well, that 2 seconds can be well matched so long as Walker does not make any mistakes from this point to the end of the race. But meanwhile, we do look from them to Sean Gaffney, who's in the pit lane, and Gaffney's fairy tale drive comes to a hard hitting end for the Simple Easies into the pits. I think this is also an emergency fuel stop. The simulation motorsport driver was absolutely flying, but there's a reason for it. He didn't have enough fuel to get to the end, and well, the car was too light, but he's still going to take a lot from today as he is going to drop down the order quite quickly. But as the car is up on jacks right now being serviced, in fact it's leaving the pits and it has had the fuel put in for Gaffney. That first podium of the season is going to have to wait a little bit longer as Alan Leather here looks to move versus what is, I do believe, Simon Andre Livingston to take P16 overall. Goes up the inside of the AM leader, and well, Livingston there not offering a fight whatsoever, only concerned about one thing right now, and you can understand what it is getting that car to the checkered flag and finally notching his first win of the season on the board. He's been denied it what is a couple of times now due to his difficulties, and in fact now it is all going to be about getting the car to the line. He has got a 20-second gap, almost 19 seconds to be a bit closer to Frank Klein in P2, and well, for Livingston now it's only what is 2 laps away, including the lap he's currently on. As he makes his way on through and up towards what is the next lap and very likely the last lap of racing today. Meanwhile, we do look to Steinar Sani, who has closed up behind Satinder Diensa, who is trying to make it another podium here as they come down through 14 and 14A. But can Diensa find a way to do this? That's the question, because Sani right now all over the back, and we should really say, can Sani find a way to get a wedge in and get the door open for a potential move? As they make the way out of Hog Pen, he's going to be very close here. It's 2/10 of quarter exit. He's going to have plenty of straight line speed to play with, and as they make the way out towards turn number 1, well, can Sani here look around the outside? He's going to go in. Diensa will defend as they head into the braking zone for the opening corner, but Diensa there brakes late and decides to put the car right in the middle of the road, saying to Sani, well, if you want it, you're going to have to cut it back or go all the way round. And in the end, Sani does get on the power nice and early, but he goes a bit deep. Oversteer creeps in, and in fact, that is going to be Neil Smith now trying to sniff a move for P4 in the AM class. The number 19 driver comes on around, but as they do, we can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have a 26th lap of racing as our race leader of what is Erik Røseth just goes across the timeline past my commentary booth now. So therefore, one more lap to go, and I wonder if this could throw a further spanner in the works for some drivers who perhaps predicted there'll only be a 25 lap race here today in the state of Virginia. But we'll have to see whether anybody right now is having to sip fuel or needs to come into the pits for an unfortunate second pit stop. But as they head all the way through it and up towards South Bend right now, you see Conley there still chasing after, trying to unlap himself versus the 3rd through to 5th place AM drivers, albeit being made to wait, and understandably so. And as they come through the oak tree hairpin here, Smith right now trying to do everything in his power to find one more place, or ideally 2. He'd love to be back on that podium with disaster prone racing. But I think it is going to be a challenge, and Sani is going to be the one that is going to be in that driving seat for the podium spot if he can find a way to get through a gap in the armour of Diensa. But as they head up towards turn number 14, no such opportunity right now for Smith as he heads into the braking zone. Neither for Sani as Dienster continues to control the pace of these three drivers. James Conley just patiently sits behind, and will they all just take their turns on the corners, or will they'll go on to one more lap in? I think they'll be surprised at the fact this race is not over, and will they exit turn 17. Smith there having a little bit of a moment as he tried to get the car down through 17, car riding high on the curb and having to catch it, but all three of them do make it on through. Conley there just in the wings waiting close behind 9. There's no point really trying to go for a move here. It pulls onto the wide racing line to give Smith the opportunity to take his position, but as they do, meanwhile we have got the checkered flag started to wave, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's understandable why, because here is your race leader of Erik Røseth, and as he makes his way out the final corner, he continues the run of form that we've seen him start the season with. Erik Røseth will make it another win this season. He comes on through to take the win at VIR, 9.5 seconds clear of Erik Røseth in the overall and elite categories at Racing Up Esports AM. And then after what was a controlled race of Røseth, it's a second place run-up spot for Ignition Motorsports Røseth, and well, the Norwegian not quite on the pace of Røseth, but still Erik Røseth absolutely delivering as best he could. And then it'll be a third place for Empire Motorsports Joe Newman, the Briton controlling the race from start to finish, but as he heads all the way up towards turn number 1, taking his deserved podium, it'll then be his first win of the season, the Pro Class P4 overall for Matt Strand for Racing Up Esports and 3 in a brilliant drive ahead of Giles Phillips, who fought his way through to P2 in the Pro Class from towards the back of the grid. Thomas Aspel finishes P6 there in the elite class ahead of Brandon Hay, who rounds off your pro podium ahead of Ryan Walker, and then it will be Ryan Miles, P6 elite, P9 overall ahead of Casper Tunstead, the UKSimRacing driver, P4 in the Pro Class ahead of Aaron McGregor and then Darren Sharples. But we then do have Ryan Davis who's come to line, as has Mark Johnson, as Alexander Tremino McAllister and company coming through. Simon Andre Livingston, meanwhile, comes on home, P19 overall, but for him, he's finally done it, ladies and gentlemen. The Racing Lab Esports AM driver takes his first AM win of the season, 16 seconds clear of the next AM driver of Frank Klein, who won his debut in season 11. The 9 Cheese Autosport driver starts with a superb drive to P2 in the AM class, and he'll finish 4 seconds clear of Satinder Dinsa, who makes it another podium back-to-back for the Tiki Supersport Toa driver, albeit he was pressured by Steinar Sani and Neil Smith, who we see there, but they couldn't find a way past Dean Sazama all the way to the checkered flag. And as we have a couple more drivers to make their way to the finish line, Tom Barjak will be one of them here, just behind Jack Wyborn, with Wyborn taking what is P6 of the AM class, and the priority in the Rexy machine will be the last driver to finish this race on the lead lap, P7 in AM behind Wyborn. And well, how the fortunes have turned for Jack Wyborn today after his win last time out, but you can't win them all, to be fair, and sometimes it's got to be damage limitation. But meanwhile, as we do look to your race winner over on the elite class of Erik Røseth here, the Race Lab Esports AM driver, absolutely on form. And well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, right now, this championship definitely seems to be going his way. It's early days yet, let's be honest, but with 2 wins in the first 2 rounds, and now making it, well, in fact, not 2 wins in the first 2 rounds, we should say. A second place in round number 1, then a win in round number 2, and now his second win of the season after a second place last time out. The Racing Out Esports AM driver absolutely delivering consistency. He's had some close rivals, including Sam Sherwood, who took the win at Fuji, and also Rhys Saunders, who took the win at MotorLand Aragón last time out. But for Røseth here today, he's proven that he's on top of the game, and will can anybody find a way to bring him down to earth? I don't think so before this break. And for Seaman Andre Livingston, what a drive from the Racing Lab Esports AM driver. It's been a long time coming, his first AM win in this season, but he's made it happen. And today, he was clear of the field by a good margin, and no technical gremlins managed to rear their ugly head. And well, it's a 1-2, it's an all-free win for Racing Lab Esports AM. In the fact, Matt Strand also takes the win in the Pro Class there for AM 3 team. And well, Racing Lab Esports as a whole be absolutely jumping up and down in joy. And for Matt Strand, he picked up the pieces where his rivals fell in front of him, and the 69 driver was under pressure from Giles Phillips in the late stages, but nothing could touch him when it all came to a close. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's your race complete, and as we take a look to the scenic view, let's take you through those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. We start off with the overall results for what is round 4 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 11, round number 4 of Virginia International Raceway here today, hosted on iRacing, brought to the UKSimRacing YouTube channel. And we see Erik Røseth there, your overall winner by 9.5 seconds ahead of Erik Røseth, with Joe Newman completed the overall top 3, and with it the elite podium. Matt Strand, P4, your Pro Class winner there, and ahead of Giles Phillips by 2.5 seconds at the line, with Thomas Asphaug missing out on the top 5 at P6 there, P4 in the Elite Class. He'll be pleased with the damage limitation. Ahead of Brandon Hay, who completed the Pro podium of Strand, Phillips and Hay. Then Ryan Walker, Ryan Moles and Casper Tunstead completing your top 10, with Casper Tunstead for Peak Sim Racing just missing out on the podium once again, but still knowing the results are going his way. We then look to best of the rest there, Aaron McGregor, P11 for ProTech Motorsport. Not quite the result he wanted, and another race where he's finished just outside of the podium places, finishing P5 in the Pro Class, but still keeping his championship lead alive to an extent. And now, given the fact we've covered our top 10, let's focus on other special mentions, aka the AM podium finishers and where they finished overall. And we can see there Simon Andre Livingston at P19, and well, finishing a minute down on the race winner overall, but still that's not going to matter for him. He is your AM winner today in the number 3 car. And then in 2 places clear of Frank Klein, who finished P21 for 9 Cheese at Autosport and took 2nd place in the AM class ahead of Satinder Deensa, who put some pressure on late on, but in the end Deensa had to focus more on the rear guard action, and a Tiki SimSport Tower driver completing the AM podium of Livingston, Klein and Deensa. We then come on to the last lead lap finisher, Thomas Barjak, who finished P27 there, the privateer, and then our drivers who finished the lap down included Rhys Saunders in P28, Sean Gaffney, Paul Joseph Cliffs, who round off your top 30 there, Stuart Pearson, Marvin Cruz, James Connolly, John Doble. A difficult return to the field today for John Doble for Tiki SimSport Kimmy, but still it's going to be a baptism by fire on his return. Still plenty of races to come in 2 weeks' time. Then finishing 3 laps down, Martin Tillin, 4 laps down, Rob Armstrong in P36, 5 laps down, Daniel Pays, Matt Emerson 7 laps down there in P38. And as we continue away on through all the finishing positions, we then see our retirees who will be classified as non-finishers as they did not complete over half the race distance. TPA races Stephen Parker Hamilton, Peter Cox, the UKSimRacing Clark, who ran off your top 40, Sam Congreve P41, BJ Alvarez P42, Aaron Beaver P43, Sander Rinstead P44, and Ian Manners not able to make it to the grid due to a technical issue with the 52 Racing McLaren. Well, P45 there with a non-start. And then coming on to the individual classes, and this is where all the points are gathered, of course, with it being a class-based Drivers' Championship, and Erik Røseth have taken the win there for Racing Ab Esports Am, 9.5 seconds clear of Hekon Gristad. And the Ignium Motorsport driver, to be fair, that gap does underestimate the potency that Gristad brought to the table, but a mistake midway through the race saw him drop behind Joe Newman, and after he battled his way past the Empire Motorsport driver to take home the P2, Røseth was too far away to be within reach. Joe Newman rounded off the podium there for Empire Motorsport, and Empire Motorsport will be absolutely pleased to see the Lamborghini Huracan up there. It's one of a very limited number of Lamborghinis on the grid, and well, Newman definitely showing that the Evo has still got the go. Thomas Asphaug P4 there for Racing Ab Esports AM2, missed out on the podium, but still be happy to be best of the rest ahead of Ryan Walker, who held off Ryan Moles to line in P5, and then we can see Ryan Davies P7 for Tiki SimSport Kimmy on course for a top 5, but unfortunate instance sending him astray at turn number 14. Then Mark Davison, Rhys Saunders, and Martin Tilling completing your top 10, with Saunders finishing a lap down and Tilling 3 laps down there for Team U1 and Tiki SimSport Kimmy respectively. And then we did have our retirees of Peter Cox and Sam Congreve for UKSimRacing Clark and Empire Motorsport. They'll both be treated as non-finishers. Meanwhile, we come on to the Pro Class. And we can see here, it's Matt Strand who took the win for Racing Ab Esports AM3, and an unexpected win, you could say, but still, you've got to be there in the right place at the right time to take it. And 2.8 seconds clear of Phillips GP's Giles Phillips. And we need to iterate again, ladies and gentlemen, Giles Phillips carving his way through the field to take the runner-up spot in the Pro Class in a brilliant drive, and definitely showing that overtaking can be done at the VIR circuit, albeit he had to be very gutsy about it at times, and finishing 2 seconds clear of Brandon Hay, who rounds off the Pro podium there for Newbridge Esports. Peak Sim Racing's Casper instead, a further 4 seconds behind, and a good race day for the 104 driver ahead of Aaron McGregor. And the ProTech Motorsport driver will not be too worried about the fact he's finished P5 today, given the fact that a good number of his rivals have once again dropped key points, but he'll want to arrest that disappearance from the podium and make sure he's back there when we return in 2 weeks' time. And Darren Sharple's P6 for UKSimRacing Price, only at what is in at 4 attempts off of his main rival. And then Alexander Tremino McCalson, P7 there for Racing Ab Esports AM, holding off Alan Lever to the line by 5 attempts. Bevan Thompson and Mark Johnson, the privateer and UKSimRacing Clark driver respectively, completed your top 10, with Kerry Kukorin at finishing P11 for Downforce Racing, and a relatively quiet race for the number 28 driver. And Casper Brotner P12 there for Old Dudes in Cars, but 4 laps up on Rob Armstrong, who finished 4 laps down for UKSimRacing Moss. And then we can see Daniel Pays P14 for Old Dudes in Cars, the last pro finisher, 5 laps down. And then the 2 retirees of Aaron Beaver, the privateer, and 52 races Ian Manners, who did not start due to technical issues with the car. And then come last but not least onto the AM class. And here we can see confirmation of Simon Andre Livingston's first win of the season for RaceLab Esports AM. 15.7 seconds clear of 9 She's at Autosports. Frank Klein, a great drive for Livingston, absolutely controlling the race from start to finish. But at the same time, Frank Klein, there cannot be doubted in the fact a great debut into season 11 for the number 76 driver. And will the American enjoying home soil and fight his way through to a P2. Satinder Deansa making it 2 P3s on the bounce. Double podium there for the TE SimSport Toa driver. Ahead of Steinar Sani, the RaceLab Esports AM2 driver, just missing out on the podium today, but knowing that he had the pace to be on the podium, and he'll look to rectify that in round number 5. And then Neil Smith for Disaster Prone Racing, just only a further 2 attempts behind, and also showing his podium credentials. And you can see how close it is in the battle to be on the podium from race to race in the AM class, and why the AM Championship is so wide open. Jack Wyborn, P6 for TPA Racing, a difficult day today for the team, but doing well to recover to P6 after an early incident in the race, cost him dear. Ahead of Thomas Barjack fish P7, and last driver to finish on the lead lap for the AM class there. The privateer ahead of Sean Gaffney for Simulation Motorsport, finishing a lap down due to the fact he had to take an emergency pit stop for extra fuel. A quick splash and dash saw him lose out on the podium finish. And Paul Joseph for Olympus Esports, and Sloan Steady Racing Stuart Pearson completing your top 10, with Pearson starting from the pit lane and doing well to finish inside the top 10 there in the final spot. Also lap down Bester SP11 Marvin Cruiser Bike Racing, head of James Conley, with John Doe will round off the finishers a lap down there P13, a difficult return for the TE SimSport Kimi driver. 7 laps down, Matt Edmondson for UKSimRacing Club, but will be classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance. And then your non-finishers, Stephen Parker Hamilton for TPA Racing, BJ Alvarez for Team Sim Racing Chicago, and Sander Roostead there, finishing our 17 AM drivers as Team Norway Racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our results from here today at the Virginia International Raceway Circuit. And very shortly, we'll be going to where's our post-round interviews. But before we do, we'd just like to invite you, if you do want to let us know what have been your moments of the day today in the race, do let us know in the YouTube chat. But otherwise, we're going to gear ourselves up for what is going to be some rather interesting post-round interviews from our drivers. We'll be back in approximately 10 to 15 minutes time. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews with our 4 volunteer drivers. And today, in a way, is a special occasion, given the fact that we have had Racing Lab Esports AM and their sister team Racing Lab Esports AM3 conclude today's racing with a win in each of the categories across AM, Pro and Elite class. So it's only appropriate that we do interview each driver who took the win, and then we're going to be hearing from 9 Shoes at Autosport's Frank Klein as our final interview in the AM class for what was a superb drive for P2. But let's get straight into the Racing Lab Esports AM crew, kicking off with none other than Simon Andre Livingston as he joins me in the interview room. Well, good evening to you, Simon Andre, and what a day it has been from yourself today, taking your first win of the season after the disappointment last week at MotorLand Aragón, where you were leading for so long, only for a technical issue to hold you back. But today, no such issues, all thumbs up from lights out to checker flag. You must be absolutely pleased.
Yeah, Paul, that was like, what can I say? Finally, I got it. Yeah, like you said, Aragon was probably, I would say, my strongest race ever. I just found so much pace in practice and been practicing with the guys, and was just so excited about my qualifying lap and tried to have a cautious and steady race. And of course, then after I pitted, my internet just disconnected. So that was that race. But now, Paul, now I made it, finally.
Oh, indeed. And what a way to start off the day, albeit a bit of deja vu from last week. We saw you take pole position in the AM class, albeit with a bit of pressure from Frank Klein in second place, but it looked as though for the most part you were on course to take pole from the outset. How did qualifying feel to you?
No, I don't want to say that I dislike this track, but I have been struggling with it. I have had some glimpse of glory with some fast laps down in like the 45s, but it's all depended on track temperatures and stuff. So when I went into qualifying, I knew it was going to be quite tight because I saw the guys on the practice that, yeah, they were quite close. But I didn't put any lap in practice with quali fuel, so I thought I could still get it. And like my first lap, I think it's the lap that actually was my lap that counted towards like my pole. So I set it on the first lap, and then I tried pushing, but when you try pushing on Virginia, it's easy to make a mistake. I had one like in that fast left, I grass dipped on my third push lap when I was some tenths up, and yeah, it's hard, but I enjoyed the quali. I was just crossing my fingers and looking at the results after quali, and I saw I was P1, and I was okay. Now the internet has to stay connected, and hopefully I will manage to drive my way around in the traffic in the race. That was all I was thinking about. I wasn't really thinking about total position or anything. I was just racing the AM drivers out there today.
Oh, indeed. And we saw multiple moments over the course of the race where you came into battles with pro class drivers and also some elites, but like you say, each time focusing on the AM win at hand. Must be difficult, however, given the fact the VIR circuit doesn't really have that many places to battle, let alone let other drivers through. It's only really the straights.
Yeah, and I had like some incident with some annoying back markers, but I wasn't really pushing too hard to like tell them like I'm faster than you, but I could feel like I had like a steadier, faster pace all over the lap. So I don't blame him for not letting me by, but it almost ruined my race at 2 points in the race with a back marker there. But at the end I came through, so I can't really complain. But yeah, like you say, Virginia, I lost like my lead. I don't know if it was like 10 laps into the race or something to Frank, and I was just, okay, what can I do now to pass him again? Because I felt I had still the pace. I was tire managing like crazy on the first stint because I didn't want to dry my tires out because of the heat. It's really hard to keep the tires in a good temperature. But I felt I had pace on him, and I was just driving behind, trying to find, okay, is it a place where he consistently does a mistake so I can pass him? And I saw like maybe I could have an opportunity into turn 1, but when he pitted a lap before me, I just went pedal to the metal and just was crossing my fingers to get out in front of him after a pit stop. And when I came out and didn't see him on the delta, I was like, okay, either he is far ahead or is far behind, and he was behind, so that was a good feeling.
Oh, indeed. Taking the lead back via strategy after, like you say, losing the lead early on. And from that point onwards, it looked as though you're no longer looking behind, but only looking forward. The big question, of course, at the VIR circuit, with track temperature being so high and also it being such a crowded circuit, how do you manage to, A, avoid falling off track, and B, also just at the end, focus on that one thing, which is get the car home in one piece?
Yeah. Well, my approach was just to try to treat every lap equally and not really think about, okay, now I'm leading, just keep calm, keep it on track. I was just trying to do what I've done in practice, just go out there and have like a delta time that I want to hit every lap. And yeah, and I felt I managed to do that, but it was some small hiccups on the way. And when I got into some traffic, I just tried to like follow them as good as I can. When I felt like, okay, now I'm starting to ump up the tire pressures, I just dropped back because there were pro drivers, which I was not really wanting to fight and risk losing the total lead of the AM class. So that was just, I don't know what to say. I was just trying to keep it on track, be calm, be patient, and just not trying to look at the lap counter, but just stay in the present of every single lap. But it's hard. But I think I will look at my lap times after the race. But I think like I was at the consistency that I wanted to be in, so I'm happy about that.
And just on that, with regards to the car you're racing, the Ferrari 488 Evo, it's a car that's known to wear through its tyres very quickly, particularly those rear tyres. Were there any moments that you thought perhaps the rear tyres were not going to last?
Yeah, when it started to push into like 100, then I was like, okay, this is going to be tough to keep, because you can feel when you start to get up into the high 90s that like the tires are slipping. But then it's all about like not being hard on the throttle, just be cautious. So I throttle out of the corners quite with ease, not trying to like slam the throttle, because as soon as you do that, when you have that tire hit, it will start to slide on you. And catching a slide in these cars is not easy. When you first start to slide, it's almost like you just have to go with it. And I didn't slide at any point. I don't think I had any moments where I had like a tank slapper on any of the laps. So everything worked out to what I have been practicing through this week. So the preparation worked this week. It was good.
Indeed, and like they say, practice makes perfect, and with the result today, you now move to P4 provisionally in the AM Class Championship. We have a 2-week break, but when we do return, we return for what is none other than Road Atlanta. So 2 questions for you. Firstly, have you got anything planned during the 2-week break? And then, how are you feeling for round number 5?
Yeah, I will take leave of absence from work, take a vacation, not this week but next week, so I will be back from vacation for Atlanta, and I will be racing some other leagues and stuff between that, and we will be doing the Spa 24-hour race on Friday to Saturday, I think. So I have something to do in between the races, and of course I will be practicing like crazy.
Oh, indeed. And then coming on to Road Atlanta, when we return, you finally picked up your first win of the season. Is it going to be podiums all the way now, or at least is that the target?
Yeah, I hope that I can keep on putting in podiums, but I know for a fact like Jack, Steinar, even Frank shows that they are contenders, and they're fast guys. And now I hope that probably in the pre-YouTube broadcast that my name will be under and not just Steinar's. Because we have been having fun about that, because we know that I have been faster than him in practice in the 2 last rounds, and still you are writing quite heavily about him. So we have just been having a laugh about that in our team. But it's okay, Paul. I get it. I'm not leading the championship, so I get it.
Well, I can assure you, you've definitely been the headline today in the AM class, and with the result you've been able to pull off, it's a superb run of form that continues to grow for yourself, Stephen Andre. But just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to Frank for giving me a proper battle today. It was a shame that he didn't that we didn't have the battle after the pit stops. And also on that note, he couldn't join us for the interview because he had to go, so he wanted me to say that, but he wanted me to thank you for the broadcast and that he is happy about his return with a P2. So on that note, and of course I have to thank my team, and again family, and all our partners, sponsors, our managers, that makes racing in iRacing a blast. And on that note, Paul, I think I will say good night and thank you once again for a great interview, a great broadcast. I will enjoy watching it back before I probably fall asleep, because this one I need to watch back. So yeah, thank you for the job, and thank UKSimRacing for providing us with this great league, and all the guys in UKSimRacing. It's a blast being a part of this league, and I hope that they don't rename it into Scandinavian Racing League right now, because unfortunately we are just fast Norwegians that don't have any spare, or all our spare times go to iRacing, so we're just fast. So I'm sorry about that.
That's no problem at all, Stephen Andre. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview, and well, congratulations once again on your superb drive to victory today. It's well deserved, and we look forward to seeing you back out the circuit a couple of weeks from now and seeing if you can continue the run. But until then, have a fantastic evening and a great holiday.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. You too. Goodbye.
So hearing there from Stephen Andre Livingston, and what a happy mood from the Norwegian driver in the fact finally bringing home his first win, and well, making the running joke there about the fact that it would potentially become the Scandinavian Racing League for the simple reason that today it really has been the drive of the Scandinavians to the top of the respective podiums of the classes. But focusing on Stephen Andre, what a way to approach it. We're qualifying that put him on pole by almost 2 tenths over Frank Klein, and well, thank you to Frank Klein for passing on the word to Stephen Andre, and we'll come to Frank Klein. He deserves his own little segment a little bit later on in this interview section of the broadcast, albeit we won't be speaking to him, but we can talk more about his performance there. But Stephen Andre, after taking pole, losing the lead 10 laps in with a brief mistake, but retaking lead based on strategy, and what goes to show you should never give up, and his consistency and managing the car here today, despite the abhorrent temperatures, really giving him the edge, and that edge has taken him to his first win. And could we see him now really push high and take the fight to a good number of his AM peers, including the name that does get mentioned more perhaps than the RaceLab Esports AM driver, and of course that is Steinar Sani, his rival teammate. We'll have to see, but either way, he's going to be rested after multiple weeks of holiday, and he's going to be back fighting fit when we return at Road Atlanta 3 weeks from now. Now going on to our second interview of today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hearing very shortly from Matt Strand, and well, what a race it has been from the driver for RaceLab Esports and 3, with the pro driver not in contention at first to win today's race, but then finding that the tables would be turned with regards to the incidents that occurred, and also some early retirements, and perhaps the most notable one being the race leader falling by the wayside. But as Matt gets ready to join me in the interview room, we're going to hear his perspective on the race and all more, and in fact he does join me now. was we welcome Matt Strand to the interview. Matt, what a race for yourself. I'm not sure if you quite expected to be able to take the win in the end, but when we saw Casper Brotner drop the ball early on in the race, you inherited the lead, and whilst you had pressure from Charles Phillips in the late stages, it never seemed to faze you too much for you to come home to take your first victory of the season. What a day.
Good evening, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, it was a good race. Unfortunately, Casper had an incident with another car, so he was really, really fast. But once that incident happened, I saw that there weren't that many pro drivers within range, so I didn't have to push too hard, and that obviously helps on this track. Easy to make mistake and go off. But it was a great race, great fun. We had a lot of practice with the team this week on this track, so it's good that that we got the victory, top of the podium in all three classes. That was really fun.
Oh, indeed. And speaking about your session in particular, we did see in qualifying you pushing in some very good times in the early stages, and at one point on course to take provisional pole, but then in the very last moments, Casper Brotner would take pole position by 2 attempts in the end. How do you feel your qualifying session went, and was there a bit more time out there, do you think?
Yeah, it was okay. The track was really, really hot, and I did a mistake. I didn't put in enough fuel for 4 laps. So I was actually planning on doing 2 hot laps, 1 cool down lap and 1 hot lap. But then I saw I had didn't have enough fuel, so I had to go for 3 hot laps, and there were more time to get. I think I was up 2/10 on my last attempt, but I did a mistake in the last sector and then I lost it all. So I think they were really close, the top 10 on this session, if I can remember correctly, and Casper had a great time. I think he qualified P4 in. So yeah, but it's okay qualifying. I've been struggling a bit the last races, so it's good that this time it wasn't too awful at least.
Oh, indeed. And with that qualifying lap putting you what was P11 on the grid, and Brotner being at P4, like you say, with that stellar pole lap, when we saw the race start, a bit of early pressure arose from behind, particularly from Aaron McGregor and Casper Tunstead both charging after you, but you very quickly were able to settle down into a bit of a rhythm.
Yeah, probably thanks to the elite guys who were giving me a tow, so I could get a nice tow of the elite guys, and they were. I could match their pace, and then they could basically drag me around the track. So I actually had issues. The first part was okay. I had a bit more issues in the end with a couple of back markers. I saw, I think it was Phil Giles. I think in P2 he was 4 or 5 seconds behind, and I ran into some back markers and lost a couple of seconds. So, great having the elites pulling me around the track.
Oh, indeed. And a little bit of tow to assist you on the straight. And then midway through the race, you suddenly find yourself jumping from P2 to the lead after Casper Brotner's unfortunate incident. And from that point onwards, it seemed as though some pressure was starting to build from the guys behind.
Yeah, I lost the tow on the elite guys mid-race. I was trying to clear a back marker in T1, had to go around, and then I lost the tow. And then Thomas, my teammate, passed, and I couldn't keep that tow as well. He was too fast for me. So yeah, my pace was dropping a bit in the mid-end section mid-end session of the race, but it was I wasn't too stressful because I see that the delta wasn't coming down quickly enough, so I didn't have to push too hard. So pretty comfortable, I think, still.
Indeed, I managed a race, and it did look as though out there race management was the most important part for everybody involved with such soaring temperatures. But as you raced around in the Porsche 992, just take us through the tyre wear rate on the car, because it looked as though that you were able to push it quite strongly from start to finish.
The tyre degradation or the tyre wear isn't that bad, but the tyre temperatures is quite bad, especially on the rear left. On the Porsche and also the rear front, but the rear left and the rears in general get it a lot, so keeping those in check and don't get the tire pressure too high is a bit tricky, or at least postpone it as long as possible. But like I said, I think being given that elite toe in the beginning meant I could save the tire or the tires longer than I thought. So the car felt pretty good all the race actually.
Well, it's interesting to hear that with regards to the feeling of the car all the way through and just having to worry about excess temperature on the rear left. But in managing the race all the way through, and a very well managed one it was, when you came through the final corner to see the checkered flag and with it your first win of the season, what was your reaction knowing that you'd finally done it?
It was great. Like I said, we had a great week practicing on this track with the team. A lot of fun in the officials. I think both me and the rest of the team had good pace, good official sessions with increasing I rating and safety rating. So overall, very nice way to end the week with the victory in UKSR.
What a week it has been for yourself and the team, and with the performance today, it does mean now that you move into P3 provisionally in the Pro Class Championship. 130 points to Championship leader Aaron McGregor's 146. The chase is on, and indeed everybody in the class right now trying to close the gap. But with that third place, how are you feeling for when we return in 3 weeks' time?
Well, let's see. I think it's Road Atlanta next. I haven't actually driven that track in iRacing. So I'm not sure what the pace is going to be like. But I think the pace is gradually improving, and when we can use the officials like we do in UKSR to practice at the same time, I hope we can or I can at least fight for podium at least in Road Atlanta. That would be fun and nice.
We do look forward to the prospect of you battling for further podiums in the Pro Class, given how close the pace of the class is from round to round thus far. And I also have to ask, during the downtime, have you got anything special planned? Any holidays, or are you doing the Spa 24 hours on iRacing?
I think I'll take some downtime. I'm not sure if I'm doing the 24 hours. I think I'll be on vacation that time, but I will probably watch the team. They have one. The other guys in the team, they have one team signed up. They're going to drive 24 hours, so no other plans than some downtime and vacation with the family.
Well, you've definitely earned it, Matt. And just before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, thank you, Paul, for doing the incredible work with the streams, and the UKSR team managing and arranging the league. We're enjoying it all in the Racing Lab team, and would thank the guys in the team for supporting me and giving good feedback on the practice sessions and enjoying the time on iRacing.
Well, Mats, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations once again on your brilliant performance to bring home your first class win of the season in the Pro Class. Still plenty of rounds to go, and we look forward to seeing you battling for podiums all the way through to the conclusion. But until then, have a great time off, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time at Road Atlanta.
Thank you. Bye.
So here and there from Matt Strand, and what a happy day it has been for the Racing Lab Esports AM3 driver. In the fact that qualifying at P2 in class, and credit where it's due to Casper Brotner with that absolutely sensational pole lap that put him P4 in the overall grid, but still started P11. Mats was not too fazed by the fact he'd be started just outside the overall top 10, and after digging in and defending quite well in the opening laps, to retain his position and using the toe of the elite drivers in front, he was able to break away and find himself in a bit of a lonely P2, but that suddenly became a lonely P1 with the fact that he did see Casper Brotner have that instant, and suddenly Strand was leading through to the conclusion. Some pressure was starting to build from behind from Giles Phillips, but mentioning there the fact he was able to manage his pace and manage that gap appropriately. It was coming down little by little every so often, but not to the point where he was really under that major pressure, and therefore cool, calm and collected to the checker flag, and that's why Matt Strand is your Pro Class winner today. And I get the feeling that potentially, if he is able to put this together at Road Atlanta once more, we could see him as our emerging charger after the leader of Aaron McGregor. But we'll have to wait and see at Road Atlanta 3 weeks from now. Then coming on to our third interview, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to hear from Erik Røseth, our third winner from Racing Lab Esports Am, albeit this time our elite winner. And as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, well, it's going to be a brilliant conclusion to 3 interviews from all 3 of their winning drivers today. And well, what's Erik got to say about a race where he's kept under pressure in the first half of the race? Well, let's find out as he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Erik, and well, what a way to wrap up the first half of the season, making it your 2nd win of the season to add to a collection of podiums, and also for Racing Lab Esports Am as a whole, a win in each of the classes today. It could not be a perfect way, a more perfect way I should say, to go into the break.
We brought it home tonight, didn't we?
Oh, indeed.
Jesus.
You guys did.
What a day. I'm especially proud of the other guys in the other classes, to be honest. I've been doing officials all week on Virginia, so I felt quite good going into this race. But the other guys, they just, they surprised me. They did a great job tonight.
Well, your teammates did a superb job, but focusing on the job you did yourself, we did see in qualifying a bit of a back and forth between yourself and Erik Røseth. 76,000, so just shy of 800ths in the end. It was the delta between the two of you for you to take pole position. It looked as though you were under a lot of pressure in qualifying.
Yeah, I actually messed up both my hot laps this qualifying. I didn't quite get the, turn 12, 13? The double apex on top of the hill, the horseshoe kind of thing. So I lost a few tenths, both hot laps, and the Håkon was really fast around there. That BMW, that zooms, to be honest.
Indeed, and with the closest, we saw you take pole, and with the BMW, like you say, zoom in on the straight. It was always going to be a drag race in to turn number 1, but you seemed as though you got the start absolutely spot on, leaving everybody behind in the rush to the first corner.
I was trying to go as late as possible, because I knew with Håkon being in the BMW, if I went too early, he would have just flown by before turn 1, I think. The Porsche is not that fast down the straights. The turbo engine in the BMW it just flies. That, the Ferrari and the Mercedes. So I had to be sure I had Håkon enough behind so I could take the inside line and keep my P1.
Well, indeed, and defending well, we then saw the chase begin for the first half of the race, with Røseth always within about 6 tenths of yourself, until he made a bit of a mistake into turns 11 and 12, and then you're allowed to start to break away.
Yeah, well, the first couple of laps, I was pushing quite hard. I was trying to get Håkon, I was trying to leave Håkon as far behind as I could. So I burned through my tires quite early. I had pretty high temps in my tires already at lap 5. So I was quite fortunate that Håkon made that mistake, so I could slow down a bit and keep my tires cool until the pit. If it wasn't for that, I think this race would have... it could have ended quite different.
Oh, indeed, and just on that, we heard earlier from your colleague Matt Strand about the risk of tyre temperature on the rear left of the Porsche. Was that something you felt as though you were struggling from, given the pressure that Røseth was putting on you?
Yeah, the rear left especially, and also the left front. The whole left side actually gets beaten up quite hard here. So I had to change 2 tires in pits. To get them down to temperatures, because they were so warm going into pits, so they wouldn't have cooled down enough going out of pits, so I would just overheat them and lost pace.
But still, it didn't go that way, given the fact your rival made the mistake before you did, and that's always a good place to be in. But of course, whilst you're able to back off to a degree, with Røseth having to battle with Newman for the first stint, we did see you in the end set the fastest lap of the race soon after you left the pit lane. And just take us through that second stint, because it looked as though then you were really in control, and the car just continued to deliver pace.
Yeah, well, in the pits I changed both left tires, so the outlap was quite interesting. to say the least, with cold tires on one side and hot tires on the other. But after the tires were settled, quite close to equal temps, I just found my rhythm and just kept on pushing. I didn't exactly push that hard. I just found my rhythm and kept running into 45, high 45s, low 46s.
Well, and with that, a fastest lap race of a 45.3, quite a magical lap, if you don't mind me saying, given the next fastest was Gustad on a 45.5. But knowing you got the perfect score today with the fastest lap, plus also the qualified pole position, it must feel a very nice place to go into the mid-season break with an advantage that keeps on growing. In fact, provisionally, your advantage now stands at, what is it, 32 points?
Yeah, with Rhys not being up there on the podium tonight, I was able to get ahead some on points. I wouldn't say it's comfortable because Rhys is a fast guy, Moles is fast, Newman shown himself as a fast guy, Håkon is fast. Yeah, every elite driver is fast. There's 32 points as of now, but there's still 6 rounds left, so anything can happen.
Well, indeed, anything can happen, like you say, Erik, and I do appreciate the fact you're not taking anything for granted. And well, looking ahead to round number 5, 3 weeks from now, how are you feeling for the roller coaster ride that is Road Atlanta?
I've never driven the track. I don't even own it, so I need to get some practice done.
Well, sounds like there's going to be some practice during the break, but have you also got some time off planned, or are you going to be busy with the iRacing official events as well?
I've actually, I've just started my 3-week vacation from work, but I'm going to attend the 24 hours of Spa next weekend, and then I'm gonna take a little break, I think.
Well, we do wish you and the team all the best in the official 24 hours of Spa, and after that, do definitely take that deserved break. But just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to tonight on the broadcast?
Of course, Paul. I need to thank you yet again for an amazing broadcast. Great interview. The UKSimRacing guys for providing us with this league. Also my teammates, the management, also the pro team for coaching, and family and friends, of course, for supporting me in doing what I do.
Well, Erik, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room, and congratulations once again on a superb drive to victory and a perfect score to wrap up the first half of the season for yourself. We look forward to seeing you out of the circuit 3 weeks from now at Road Atlanta, but until then, good luck in the iRacing 24 hours of Spa, and well, on top of that as well, have a fantastic holiday break.
Thank you, Paul. Have a great evening.
So hearing there from Erik Røseth, the elite class driver for RaceLab Esports AM, and what a day it has been today. I think right now he may just be letting the reality sink in with regards to the fact he's made it 2 wins out of 4 in the first half of the season. And whilst he has mentioned that 32-point gap is nothing to become complacent about, given the fact that the odds can very quickly turn in the elite class with so many drives on race leading pace, and we saw that here today with the fact that Håkon Gustad kept pushing Erik, and well, the only difference between the two of them was who made the first mistake, and in the end it was the pursuer rather than those being pursued. And once Erik had seen that, he was able to back the car and therefore drive more comfortably in the car, but you could never know. Perhaps if it had gone 1 or 2 laps longer, could we have seen Erik make a mistake and Håkon Gustad come on through to take the lead and potentially the win? Well, we'll never know. It's a what-if question. But right now, the RaceLab Esports AM driver definitely in a leading position, and one that, whilst he may not take it for granted, I think it's one that when he looks back over the break, he'll feel as though it puts in the best possible stead to resume 3 weeks from now at Road Atlanta. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all 3 of our RaceLab Esports AM team interviews. And now we come on to our final interviewee, albeit Frank Klein not available for comment due to time, but he was able to leave the message via Simon Andre Livingston. He was very welcome to be able to join us for interview, albeit time not available, but also saying very pleased to pick up second place on his return to the UKSimRacing GT3 League this season, representing Nine She's Autosport after representing Tiki SimSport in the previous season. And we'll just a comment on Frank Klein's race today. Definitely goes to show that whilst he may have been absent for a brief period, his racing determination and also speed have not gone away whatsoever. And qualified in what was P2 in the race and ended up finishing at P2 as well, as we do correct that slight typo there on screen. Starting P21 on the overall grid and finishing exactly where he started, but all the way through the race under this constant back and forth pressure with other drivers around him, and in the late stages in particular, with a small error, finding himself under pressure from what was previous teammate Satinder Deensa, albeit I still think the friends down in the paddock as a minimum, but the point being, whilst he made mistakes, they were never race-ending. He also managed to recover from them and get himself back onto the pace, and in the BMW M4 showing great manoeuvrability all the way through in terms of managing traffic, managing his race, and well, for Frank Klein, it may just be the start of his season, but you never know where he could end up come the end of it. And whilst I'd be keen to have known his thoughts on going to Road Atlanta 3 weeks from now, I definitely think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and well, our race winner today, Simon Andre Livingston, will definitely keep one eye on his rearview mirror in case he does have the number 76 BMW M4 of Klein chasing up right after him. But that brings us to the end of our interviews, ladies and gentlemen. And what we've heard just recently from the three Racing Lab Esports AM drivers of Simon Andre Livingston in the AM class, your winner for today in the number 3. We then heard from the winner in the Pro class from Racing Lab Esports AM 3 of Matt Strand in the number 69. And we also heard from Erik Røseth for Racing Lab Esports AM in the number 42 from the Elite class. And whilst we didn't get to hear from him directly, we did have a message passed on from Frank Klein in the number 76 for 9. She's at Autosport in the AM class, who was the runner-up in the class today, and definitely having a great return to the series. But congratulations to all 4 drivers for their brilliant performances, and well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to give you an update on the provisional standings going into the mid-season break, and we begin with the Elite Drivers' Championship. As we can see here, after 4 rounds of racing, Erik Røseth with a 32-point advantage over Rhys Saunders definitely seems to be the man to beat. However, he's not taking it for granted, and Rhys Saunders right now, after missing out today, will be all fired up to bounce back in full force for Team Year 1 3 weeks from now. Behind him, by a further 19 points, it's Ryan Moles of ProTech Motorsport, and we do know that Moles can be very fast when he's absolutely in the Ryman rhythm, and he's only ahead of Joe Newman based on result countback. Newman picking up another podium today, and indeed, when I say another podium in his UKSimRacing GT3 League history, or career if you will, but his first podium of the season, and I think the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo driver will know now that he's got the consistency and the car control to keep himself in the hunt for podiums, left, right and centre, so he's going to be one to watch out for. And then Hek Ongestad moves into the top 5 for Ignia Motorsport, with his second place finish today, definitely now giving him the impetus after he missed round number 3 to know that title defence is well and truly underway. He's got a gap to close down, but he also already has a drop score on the board with MotorLand Aragón, where he was not in attendance, and therefore right now he's the one to watch out for when we get towards the end of the season, because his points will suddenly surge up. Ryan Walker for Satellite Racing, just outside the top 5 in P6 on 96 points. He's holding off Thomas Asphaug and also, Ryan Davies, with Peter Cox and Mark Davison completing the top 10 there. The UKSimRacing Clark driver, 4 points to the UKSimRacing Price driver, and I think both right now feeling as though their early form in the first couple of rounds needs to return soon, given the fact they've been off of the format quite recently. There's Damien Lobbit, Peter Lund, best of the rest there for Symphony Esports, who was not in attendance today, ahead of Sam Sherwood, Cy Anthony, Martin Tillin, Nathan Scott, Sam Congreve and Andy Jones, with Jones yet to get any points on the board and completing your elite standings. We then come on to the Pro class. And here we can see the story is a little bit different, with Aaron McGregor's lead still standing at 14 points over Darren Sharples. And the key point to note here, that McGregor was able to make a couple more points on the board ahead of Sharples today, and therefore the ProTech Motorsport driver will feel as though he is, to a degree, in control of this Pro Championship. However, with Sharples finishing just behind him, the UKSimRacing Price driver will know he's just got to go one extra step if he wants to close in the gap. With Matt Strand now moving into P3 and a further 2 points to field, we have a top 3 that is breaking away from the rest of the field, with being 14 points to Casper Tunstead. I think this could be representative now of where we're seeing the divisions lie. However, to say that would be unfair for the Peak Sim Racing drive, with Tunstead today putting a superb drive to P4 and still showing that he's on course for a potential podium in the near future, but he just needs things to go his way, and he is 6 points clear of Alexander Trumino McAlson, with the Racing Lab Esports AM driver there also bringing home another great result in terms of being inside the top 10 of the Pro class and keeping himself in the hunt for a top 5 finish at the end of the season. However, he's under pressure from Daniel Pace, place for Old Dudes in Cars and the privateer of Bevan Thompson, with Casper Brotner, Alan Levitt and Chris Kirkland not too far behind, albeit Kirkland not in attendance and dropping a P10 for Downforce Racing. But we need to look at the P8 driver Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars, who did put in an absolutely beautiful pole lap, but in the end a mistake cost him very dear indeed. But the triple one driver will know that he's still got plenty of rounds to go, and therefore it's not to discourage him, given the fact we have seen signs today that Brotner could be the man to beat on pace if the stars line at the next couple of circuits. Charles Phillips P11 there with a second place finish that will be proud of for Phillips GP after missing the first 2 rounds of the season, now started to find his rhythm. And Mark Johnson P12 there in another difficult day for the UKSimRacing Clark driver, and his fortunes will want to turn around sooner rather than later. But still Chris Constable behind by 10 points in P13 ahead of Rob Armstrong and Brandon Hay. And Brandon Hay missing the last 2 rounds, but also getting some good points on the board today with what was a drive to 3rd place, ahead of Aaron Beaver, Kerry Kokorin, Lewis Payne, and Richard Jones and Rudy Avitsland to complete your top 20. Then Ian Maz on 4 points, unfortunate not to get onto the grid today due to technical issues with the car. And then yet to score points, Martin Fernie, John Watt, and Joe McManus. Then going on to the AM class, last but not least in our Drivers' Championship standings, provisionally Jack Wyborn leads by what is there 8 points for TPA Racing over Stein Arsani. But Wyborn today having a race where he's had to battle against the elements, but did so well in the end to finish P6 in the AM class, given the way things started much further down the grid. But still with an 8-point advantage over Stein Arsani, the Racing Lab Esports AM2 driver will continue the hunt, there's no question about it. And Neil Smith for Disaster Prone Racing continues to fight on in P3. He may not have been in the chance for a podium today, but he definitely shined in the number 19 BMW M4 that sometimes you've just got to have consistent results across the board to be in a championship challenging position. Stephen Andre Livingston leaps into P4 with his first win of the season. And the Racing Lab Esports AM driver there, now 9, he's batting with the grades and looking to close down that 11-point gap to the top 3. Then we do have a gap of which 27 points to Thomas Barja in P5. The privateer only had a Satinder Deanser based on result countback, and Deanser most notably making it back-to-back podiums now after picking up his first podium in his career last week, and now making it 2 on the fly. Could he go even further when we return? And Stuart Pearson for Slow and Steady Racing, another great result having started from the pit lane. Those 22 points move him into P7 on 88 points. 6 clear Paul Joseph Clist, with Olympus Esports driver as well having a strong showing despite the fact he started far down the order. Then Sean Gaffney and James Conley complete your top 10, with both drivers having difficulty in the last couple of rounds, and Sean Gaffney in particular I think feeling as though if only he put a bit more fuel in the car, he could have been on course for at least a top 5, if not a podium. Still, best of SP11 is Marvin Cruz of Bike Racing, and a relatively subdued race day after an early incident. And then Stephen Parker Hamilton, Matt Edmondson, John Doble and Ricky Pink complete your top 15, with Matt Maddox at a Frank Klein, and Klein making his debut here in the season today for 9 Sheets at Autosport, therefore one to watch out for as he tries to build those points on the board after the 2nd place finish. He's ahead of BJ Alvarez, with Cy Hartley and Sander Rustad completing your AM standings in terms of all 20 drivers. We then come on to the Teams Championship, last but not least, and here we can see that Racing Lab Esports AM lead the way, albeit their advantage right now only standing at 18 points, and it does seem to be a seesaw between them and ProTech Motorsport. UKSimRacing Price are falling behind in P3, and therefore it looks like the top 2 teams are still trying to break away, with Price leading the charge after them, 8 points clear of Racing Lab Esports AM2. And then we do have TPA Racing complete in the top 5, still holding on to that 5th place position despite the difficulties today costing them some major points. And it's Old Dudes in Cars at P6 at a UKSimRacing Clark, with the gap there between P6 and P7 now emerging to almost 30 points, in fact 27 points between them, and therefore we are starting to see these splits of the field and these smaller battles emerging in the Teams Championship. Speaking of which, UKSimRacing Clark, Tiki Sim Sport Kimi, UKSimRacing Moss and Empire Motorsport complete your top 10 and are all within a battle of 20 points with one another. Then best of SP11 is Racing Lab Esports and Free, who have had their points bolstered today by the performance of their drivers. Head of Disaster Prone Racing only based on result countback. There's Team Year 1 a point off of them, with a further 2 points to Tiki Sim Sport Tower and a further 4 points to Downforce Racing to complete the top 15. Slow and Steady Racing trying to make their way into the top 15. They're only 1 place behind that and a further point behind, with Peak Sim Racing, Symphony Esports, Ignium Motorsport and Satellite Racing complete your top 20. And then outside the top 20, but not to be forgotten about, is Olympus Esports at a Simulation Motorsport, with Phillips GP, Bike Racing, Aspire Racing Team, ProTech Academy, Team Sim Racing Chicago, 9 Sheets at Autosport, 52 Racing, and Team Norway Racing completing your championship standings. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the UK sim racing community as a result, then we firstly recommend that you check out our official website. That may be found at UKSimRacing.co.uk. You saw it flashed up earlier in the broadcast today, and there you can find out all about our latest series and in terms of what is ongoing and also upcoming at UK Sim Racing, and also about our affiliates. But if you don't want to go to our website necessarily, but you love following people on social media, then you can follow us on social media at our official Twitter, and that may be found at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. We'd also like to take a moment to give a big thank you to our affiliates, starting with Swelly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching. And well, with regards to Swelly Omeda, he's the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist, and his coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swelly Omeda has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swelly being a multi-time champion of the official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks could help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. We have Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, including but not limited to Amazon Prime, Amazon Fire TV, and Amazon Alexa. And our latest affiliate, as of last week, the Sim Racing Community Driver Academy. You can elevate your sim racing skills with the SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC's Driver Academy? Well, it's affordable, quality coaching. They're experienced coaches who provide valuable insights and a competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible to all at affordable costs, tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more. And they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. Join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. And do visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. But now, ladies and gentlemen, well, we'll hope that time can accelerate, albeit our drivers will be grateful for the break, because we do have the fortnight break, and we'll return in 3 weeks' time to get things back underway with the second half of the season in round number 5 of 9, and it will be at the roller coaster ride of road race in the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Set the date in your diaries for on Sunday the 6th of August 2023. We'll be live from circuit side to see how all of our drivers get on. It's going to be battles of plenty, and will our championship leaders carry on from where they left off, or will there be immediate turns in the tail? We'll find out more then, but until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX11 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a fantastic summer break, ladies and gentlemen, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.